We're live, in effect, in the place to be once again. This is Perspective Show. I am one of your hosts, Lityyy Bro Flacko. My other host is here to my left, or wherever it is that y'all seeing. Is it my right for the internet? I don't know. To my left, to my
You're
right,
right.
Holden, Stephan, Roy. Holden, say hi, Holden.
Hi, Holden, to your left.
Word, word. Hi, Holden to my left and shit. Know what I mean? And this week we got our first
Reggie to my
ever
left.
duo interview. You know, Teak said, and this is who's to my left. Our first ever duo interview. You know what I mean? The Jersey City legends, indie legends, CF and Teak, who together formed the Billion Man Rebellion, BMR.
Facts.
Peace, peace.
Facts. You already. What's good, legend?
Was goody. So, all right, y'all, we're gonna get straight into it, right? So, the way that this show came about, right, is like I met the homie Holden online and shit. I ain't know this motherfucker from a can, from a hole in the wall. You know what I mean? Like I literally met this motherfucker online, right? And I was doing album promo and shit, and he came across our shit. This is a super abbreviated version because we got two of y'all, so I want to get straight to the interview, right? And he does album reviews. He saw our album. He did a review. And I was like, yo, we should do an interview. And he was like, actually, I was going to ask you to do an interview. We did an interview. And let me tell you something, guys. This shit felt like fucking therapy. I was like, yo, why have I been a fucking rapper for this long and I never talked publicly about like my life growing up instead of like always talking about rap shit. You know what I mean? So with that, I was immediately like a New York motherfucker, right? Like you discover some lit shit and you're like, yo, I'm gonna put all my people on. You know what I mean? And here we are. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been interviewing for almost a year now, all the homies, and it's been a fantastic voyage. I get to learn shit about my bros that like I did not know like that. You know what I'm saying? Holden has his set questions he likes to open up with, but I like to cut that off and say instead, let's open up with introduce yourselves individually and tell the people where you guys are from. And then after you're done saying who you are, where you're from, tell the people where your parents are from.
Um, Peace. My name is Dontique Manguel. I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. My parents are from Bushwick, Brooklyn. I'm at CF in Jersey. Your turn.
What up? My name's CF. I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. My parents originally were from. My mother was came from the Bronx. My father came from Manhattan, and they met in Hoboken, New Jersey. So that's basically that's my story.
That's a very New York like between the two of y'all cover the three most important boroughs. No disrespect to Queens and Staten Island, you know what I mean? But all the disrespect intended clearly.
Shit, I went to kindergarten in Queens.
Yeah, Teak is a actual New Yorker.
New
My family,
York all the way, huh?
normally Puerto Ricans used to live in New York and move to Jersey, but Teak is directly from New York. I met him in 1994 in Jersey City.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get into
So
that.
Facts.
So
Bonnie in the comments said that CF has a great New Yorker accent.
oh yeah,
I think
I
that's
mean
just the legend. That's just the legend's cadence.
I think
Hold
the
on.
fact the
See,
Jersey got that
you were
Staten
muted.
Island shit in there too.
yeah.
Yeah, they
Is that
do. Yeah, they do.
where I grew up in Jersey City? It was only 5 minutes from New York, so we the closest point to New York City compared to any other place in Jersey. So like I normally went to New York. I ain't really go to, and I always kept
I,
thinking, my grandfather, I was raised by somebody from the Bronx, so my grandfather talked like a motherfucker from the Bronx. It is what it is.
you real quick. Like I tell people that Jersey City is the fifth borough more than Staten Island is. It's more easily connected to New York City jumping on the path. Like if you can't connect in New York City by train and transferring by train, then you're not really a part of New York City. And to get to Staten Island, you got to get on that ferry. But to get to Jersey City, all you got to do is transfer at one of the many multiple stations to catch that path, and boom, bang, bing, you're right in Jersey City. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
salute to
I mean, you
Jersey City
know,
being the fifth borough.
when you
Yo, I remember
walk
my wife from
outside, you
Jersey
see
City,
that.
and she got the Bronx accent like Remy Ma. Because with black people downtown, they blend in with the Puerto Ricans so easy. That
Yeah,
accent just
that's
come out. That Bronx accent just come out.
that's
Heavy,
another fact.
heavy.
When Jersey City was like, well, it was almost like, it's a place where Puerto Ricans and blacks intermingled a lot. And a lot of Puerto Ricans obviously mix with black, and they just continue to mix with black when they over here. So it's almost like Lower East Side. It's almost like being in the Bronx to a certain degree. The
It
way
is.
how the mixes
It is.
are, and the accent is not. It's only 5 minutes away from Manhattan, so it's a little bit different than like being in Newark and shit like that. Is Jersey City's unique because it's Jersey and New York fused into one thing and shit. So it's mad. It's a hybrid. Mad, but because
Facts,
mad people,
facts.
the vast majority of people that live here came from New York, and the buildings right now, shit, we got buildings that rival the skyline of Manhattan, so it's really connected. I
Facts.
mean, when you look across, I go outside of my house and I walk and I see the Freedom Tower right there in front of my motherfucking face, like I could touch them. Just like when the Twin Towers was here, you could look at them shits and that shit's wild, like super close. And I seen them shits go down. You know the deal. So,
Jersey
and
City has the best view in all of America, and it's because Jersey City views Manhattan. You know what I mean? Like if you live in Jersey City
that's a
on
fact.
the water, you got that whole Manhattan skyline as your main view, and that's the most beautiful fucking
Yeah.
skyline you
That
can see anywhere. You know what I mean?
You know where Biggie took where they snapped that picture of Biggie with the towers was in Jersey City, and then the dude, yo, rest in peace to the photographer, cause he was from Jersey City and he died recently, but he was
Rest in peace.
he's the guy who I met him actually through my man Wami. Peace to my man Wami. Y'all always connect. My man Wami always get us connected. That's the plug. Facts.
Homie is the
But
plug. Everybody needs a homie that's the plug.
you know where
All
we
right,
at. You know where we rep.
let's get it started, yo. Holden, ask,
Alright.
get these questions off.
Alright,
I
so I
mean,
got like the
off the
opening
tarmac.
So let's just start it off with an opening question to get the ball rolling a little bit. It's a bit of a story, and when it lands, y'all can answer it. I'm not used to asking two people at once, so we'll let you both answer it, and we'll just kind of blend in as it does. But it all starts with my girlfriend, and she's washing dishes one time, and she's got her phone up, and she's playing that Black Eyed Peas song, the I got a feeling, ooh. And she's like vibing, she's dancing, she's doing her thing, and I'm looking at her, and I had this moment where I'm like, when the fuck did this song become chores music? And I say that because, like, right now, people be putting this on when they vibing, they doing chores, dishes, they working out, they in some place where maybe it's a little boring, and you want to go back to the happy place in time. And I say that because you run it back 10 years. This song is one of those middle of the night, this is the vibe, like, you're having the best time, everybody drunk song. 10 years goes by. The song doesn't change because it's a song. But we change so much, the context in our lives evolves so much that the music plays such a different role now. Which got me thinking about them little 20-year-olds and stuff running around. They have no idea that what they are partying to right now is going to become the chores music of their future. And they also don't know that what they're partying to right now is what we do chores to right now. And that's just kind of the circle of life and stuff. I bring all this up because, like, when we talk about our musical journeys and we go through it, right? So often you just kind of get to this point where, like, we started this adolescence, this 12, 13, this, I discovered hip hop at this point. I started writing at this point. But if we think about it, that's not really the start of the story at all, right? When you were born, there's a good chance that there's like music and things playing in the hospitals and whatnot. As you're going throughout your life, there's going to be a whole bunch of music that surrounds you. And oftentimes you don't have a lot of control over it. Like I can remember being, 5 years old. My dad's got these like gray boxes all around the apartment, the amp and the radio, the tape deck, all these wires and shit going around to these speakers and whatnot. He used to be doing things like playing Led Zeppelin tapes and stuff during the day, but at nighttime it would be more like the club music straight from Montreal, and they used to do that live and whatnot. My mom's was more like the discos, the love songs, musicals, that kind of vibes. All that to say, like, all of this impacted me my whole time growing up, and it wasn't until much later on I had any real say in like what I actually listened to and consumed in terms of the vibes of it all. So I was hoping y'all could bring us back to like the youngest CF and Dontique you can remember being, and describe a little bit about what it sounded like to be you growing up, like what your parents was bumping, the technologies and vibes of it all.
The sounds and the vibe for me, my was shit that I would find on the radio myself. Later on, my pops would take me to like events, like house events and hip hop events, like rocksteady events and stuff like that. But the main stuff I would find would be the stuff I find myself on Kiss FM when if Red Alert was on, if Chuck Chill Out was on, if Kid Capri was on at the time, whoever was on, I would be the kid sitting there trying to make my little tape so my cousin will listen to it later. So I kind of found the music on my own.
What were your parents playing though?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There was no specific thing that they were playing. My father would go out and dance to shit, but he wouldn't really be like, "Yo, put this on." Like,
So it's just the
I would be the one that find the music. Like,
That's
okay.
deep.
That's crazy.
Um,
You
when I
was like
was
the
younger,
house DJ in your house growing up.
word.
like for real, like that's not
For
usually
real.
how it works out.
At all. That's hardly how it.
I ain't even know that. That's deep. Cause I remember his pops being that dude that can dance and plays the congas, but Teak had his own musical journey,
Yeah,
which
he played
also led me.
congas, but it wasn't. He couldn't play him in my grandmother's house in Brooklyn.
That's gangster.
That shit. So
Yo,
had to
I had
go
the
to
same
DX
shit
for
that
that.
Teak got. Like what Teak said is almost similar to my shit. Cause growing up, like I remember my father having that what's them shits that they had, the 8 tracks, right? The that they used to plug into car stereos. It was like, before tapes and
Yeah,
shit
I
like that.
think. Yeah, 8 tracks.
So when my father and my mother, they would listen to whatever commercial radio was popping at the time. That's when they was together. That was a beautiful time because my parents were only together for 5 years of my life, and they purchased a home together, and that was a beautiful moment. So the music that was playing is always something that when I look back on and reflect on, it was a good, small but good period of my young life. So we would hear shit like the Ritz, the Hard, that shit with was it solid as a rock by fucking I forgot what the fuck was
Oh
their
my
name
God!
and
Wait,
shit.
I feel like I remember that. Solid as a rock.
Solid as a rock. Dun, 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 dun. As for the Simpson and shit like that,
Okay.
and all that stuff. But that never led me into hip hop because my parents did not even remotely um celebrate hip hop. They was two Puerto Ricans who came from New York backgrounds in Jersey, and the shit that they knew about was salsa and probably disco, because they was in the 70s. I was born 78. So there was a disconnect between like some Puerto Ricans outside of New York who weren't immediately from the Bronx and shit like that may have liked salsa and this, that, and the third, but hip hop may have not penetrated in their area to the point where it was being celebrated. So I had to learn about hip hop on my own journey, just like Teak had to learn about his own musical journey. And I learned that through my cousins. Like when my mother and father broke up, um, I had a best friend of mine who lived around the corner, and he used to dance into the fire escape in his underwears to rap, and he would put me up on a rap and shit like that. And I'm like, all right, oh shit, this is the new thing. And then breakdancing was oddly enough, when my mother and father broke up, breakdancing was really popping. So it became like the fad, but the parents wasn't celebrating that shit. Like nowadays, parents and children are kind of fused in together. There's no kind of generation gap. But when hip hop came on the scene, there was a whole gap, especially for like Hispanic people, because they on some old disco, salsa shit, and they don't know shit about rap. The young kids know about rap, so we had to find our own selves. We had to find this shit by ourselves. And going through there, I remember visiting my cousins who lived in the projects in Hoboken, and they would listen to hip hop, and that's like taboo for me, because like, that's not music that you were supposed to listen to. But they would put me up on it, and then that's where they put me up on video music box. I didn't have cable in my house. My grandfather had no cable, so they would have cable, but aside from that, they would also look at video music box, because there was no box or jukebox and none of that shit. Video music box is where the real hip hop was at. This is even before Yo MTV Raps type shit. So I would learn about hip hop through that, through them. And my cousin would break dance and stuff like that, and you know what I mean. My parents put me on the music, but hip hop I learned through my best friend and through my cousins,
When did you
that's
guys
how I got
discover
it.
hip hop then? Like, how old were you when that happened?
I was around probably 6 years old,
Say a word.
6 or
Around the
seven
So
years
same
old.
time. Around the same time.
Yeah, that's
you know what
wild.
though? That's like not right. Like the story, the stories that we have, right? Because we're all, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, Teak, right? This is our first time meeting, but like I think that we might be in the same age group. You know what I mean? Around the same years, type of thing.
I'm
And like
42.
for right, so I'm 41, right? So like, it's one of those things where like back then, I think all of our parents, right? Like they weren't. It wasn't just Latin parents that weren't into hip hop. Like even like my friends, all my black friends growing up were all always like, oh, black American friends were always all like their parents and their uncles will always be like, it's fucking rabbity rap hoobity hop shit. You know what I mean? Like they would always criticize them for it because their generation was all about that like soul music and R&B music. You know what I mean? And like for Latin parents, it'd probably be like some salsa, merengue shit, right? Like my father was into uh like Puerto Rican country music, which is like Jibaro
Oh, like
music.
Hibaro
You know what
music,
I mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's just
Jibaro
hard. I
music
fuck
and
with
shit.
that.
Which is like Puerto Rican's version of kind of like mariachi type music, I would say almost. You know what I mean?
I
Because it's
like
like these
that. I like
fucked up
Ramito and
stories.
Chuito.
Like there's always these fucked up
Yo, that
stories.
shit,
And then when they
that
and when
was
they're
some
speaking
gangsta
to
ass
their women, they're
stories.
always saying some like fucked up shit like, "Oh, girl, I didn't mean to beat you. Why you left me? You got me crying." It's like, nigga, you just said you beat her. What is wrong with you, my guy? Why are you singing about that? What are you doing? Right? But like the point being, right, is that like our parents' generation, like they kind of didn't really like they just weren't into hip hop like that. We were the ones really like a part of that whole, movement of it spreading, like, and they'd hear it and then they'd be like, what the fuck is this shit? The fuck? Which is like
Yo,
kind of
that's
what we do when we hear new genres nowadays, right? Like I hear people like drop music that like I've never heard before, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Sometimes it's like, what the fuck is this shit in a good way? Sometimes it's what the fuck is this shit in a bad way, But yeah,
yeah. I mean, like when I was this like you said, like we had to find hip hop on our own, our generation. So
Yeah, it's mad
my
different.
grandmother was actually my grandmother celebrated my shit because she'd be like, yo, I want you to rap. I want you to, like, my mother was like, nah, hell no, don't do that shit. She didn't believe in me. Still to this day, she don't really fuck with that whole rap shit. She don't understand the in and outs or dynamics or if we, how what is it to be a level that you're really good. To her, it's like, that's that generation disconnect. But my grandmother, oddly enough, was very supportive and be like, "Yo, I want you to ride shoes." So we used to go downstairs in the basement of my house that I'm in right now, and there would be like a little, like a step out to the outside, and we use it as like a little platform as a stage to perform. And my grandmother would be like, "Go ahead, rap, rap, rap." She loved that shit. So that's kind of bugged out. You know what I mean? That my grandma was like, up there was always supportive of anything I did and shit like that. She just
That's
wanted to
dope.
see me happy, so she didn't really give a fuck what it was. She'll watch
Yeah, she was cool
wrestling with
too.
me.
She was
Yeah,
cool too.
Dontique is the only person. This is how far back that Dontique and I go. He was the only person kind of allowed us right now that knew my grandmother before she even passed, cause she passed I think 2 years after I met Dontique and shit like that. So you know what I mean, like
Okay.
we have a connection on some other level because we seen a lot of shit,
You
and made it
experience life, a
as
lot of
far as we
life
got
together.
there. Facts. So that's gangster. But we both have similar paths in terms of how we discovered music, and
Yeah, I
from
used to
two
battle.
different sides of
Me
the
and
river.
I used to battle my grandmother in singing, so we shared
Whoa,
we
say
shared
word.
that.
That's
Wait,
I
hold on,
could
hold
gangster.
sing
on.
for shit. I
You
could
gotta
sing
give the
for shit. She
rundown on
couldn't
that
sing for
story.
shit. But
Oh,
Yeah, that's
y'all
gangster.
be singing like off key singing against
yeah,
each other
doing
type.
our doing our ain't no mountain high enough renditions and shit.
And his grandmother
But
don't play
yeah,
neither. I
but
heard
that's the
she
thing.
don't. She
That's the
don't play.
generation though. Our generation, we kind of got raised by our grandparents and shit. So it is what
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
facts.
word up. I
And my
definitely was
grandmother would
raised
let
by
me
my
take over the
grandparents.
radio. She would let me take shit apart and make sure we got cable from the other people's apartment. I had permission to do all that shit.
Yo, you
Yo,
know
that's
is that
gangster.
that's dope, and you know what though? Like that right there shows already like a correlation between y'all two, where like y'all both kind of had like people in your families that supported you and supported you guys individually, right? Like growing up. That's like that's prop like I don't know, for me, like outside of this show, I like paying attention to like how why it is like the science of why particular people get along with each other, right? And like
Yeah,
knowing CF Legend as long as I've known him, right? Like I pick up on that, like he's like he don't really like too many people, like
that's a
so
fact.
so and this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing, right? Because like he's honest. At least he's honest. Like there's people out there that pretend so hard to like people, like when they really don't, right? And it's just like disingenuous, and you can kind of tell that they don't really give a fuck about you. But like Legend, like when he don't give a fuck about you, you can kind of fucking tell. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm really trying to get to is like the science of why y'all probably like fuck with each other so heavy, and that might be like a
Yeah.
link in both of y'all's like personality DNAs. Like y'all had a family member that you like loved a lot that like supported you guys individually, like both your grandmas. It
Yeah,
sounds like.
I mean, shit. When Dontique first came across to Jersey or Jersey City, when I met him, he was signed to a label, and his father was very supportive of his career, and at the same time, when his father knew about us, my friend Juan and myself, he was supportive of our endeavors as well. So we didn't have any male role models growing up, neither my friend Juan or myself, because we came from single parent households and was raised by our mothers, and me in my situation, grandparents. So when Don, his father, liked our shit, it actually put a spark in us, because we like, yo, like someone other than our grandparents or grandma or this, that, and the third likes our music, and it's a male role model that we could look up to. And that kind of was that was that that was something different. And Don actually was like, yo, like I want everybody to live. You wonder where I get this talk, like, yo, legend, this legend, yo, that legend. Don was the first person to be like, we all could be legends. Like, y'all all great. Y'all all kings. That's what he used to say. I was coming from a household with my grandfather, because of alcoholism and lack of having a father around, was told I could not be much. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think it was anyone's fault. It's just they didn't have that insight. But Don came to Jersey from Bushwick and on some shit like, y'all all kings. We all could get to places. We all gonna be great. And that shit just put a different like fire under me and shit like that. And Dante could elaborate on that because that's his father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my pops was in a singing group, and my way of getting my pop's attention was to kind of make music and shit. Like, yo, I could do this shit too. But so, like, when he seen that we could do it, he was full speed ahead. He was like, nah, you, you about to get a record deal. I thought Chi Ali was rapping. That was you.
Yo, I have
So,
a
'cause I
question.
did a little tape with my peoples and shit. But Pop Duke's always held everybody down. He used to promote events in the city, and then let us rock at all the events, no matter who else was performing that night, so we could get our showmanship up as far as MCs and shit.
So when did
That's
y'all?
Word up.
incredible.
'Cause, yo, like, okay, so when did y'all actually like individually start rapping? Like, how old were y'all when that came to be?
Say about 9, 10.
I was
Whew,
around the
early.
same.
Yo,
I
that's
was on the same age
y'all
too.
didn't know each
Yeah,
other
Around I
yeah.
back
was
then,
rhyming
right?
about gummy bears. Nah, we didn't know each other. We was growing up on two different sides of the river.
Yeah, I was rapping
Nice.
about Flintstones and shit in the first.
I was rapping about gummy bears. Facts.
Yo,
That's incredible.
that's
Word
so
up.
dope.
What makes you decide to start rapping? Like, I mean,
Yo, I had a whole routine with the Donald Duck voice and
Oh, that's gangster.
yeah, they
Oh,
used to be like,
word.
do
I
it,
could
do it,
never
do it.
change voices like that. You got that all.
that's wild. So what makes you decide to start rapping though and get into that?
I was I know I started with my best friend Juan because he lived around the corner from me. And he there was a guy named Troy down the block who was recorded music, and he was associated, loosely associated, I think, with Nappy Assassins, which is YZ from Return of the Holy Ones, who also actually was down with Aguilar, because Aguilar used to be down with Nappy Assassins. Aguilar is known as Adolf. That's why I know Adolf since I was like 12 years old, because Adolf used to live in Jersey City. For those who don't know, Adolf is a pretty known, he's a pretty known producer, and he's a frequent um visitor of the EO Dub Zoom and shit like that. But uh, my boy Juan was like, "Yo, let's go out here and start doing music, like they're recording at this dude's Troy spot." And I was like, "Alright, you know what I mean?" But I was like, "Yo, I look mad light skinned, B, and I don't think that's really gonna rock, cause you know what I mean. I look, even though I'm Puerto Rican and my family mix, I look white. I don't think that's really gonna be a good look." And he was like, "Yo, it ain't about your fucking color. It's about like where your heart is at." And he got me into rhyming because I wouldn't have taken it seriously because I didn't think that there could ever be an opportunity for someone like me. But he was like, nah, it's about your heart. And one was that kind of guy that he had an insight. Like he's the first person that liked Tupac when everybody in the East Coast was like, fuck Tupac. He was like, nah, you don't know about Tupac's life. And he was the type of person that had that spirit of discernment. Like he could see through shit. That it didn't matter how you look or this, that. Is about what's inside of the person. Like, you know what I mean? Like he read through the hearts of men type shit. And that in itself gave me the inspiration and the fire to be like, yo, fuck it, probably I could do this shit. Probably I could get good. Probably he's right. Probably it's about um what's inside as opposed to what was out. And that's I started looking at life through that. I started looking at life like, let me look at what's inside of people as opposed to looking what's outside, what the superficial shit. And I could always attribute that to Juan's perspective on life, even though he's not with us anymore because he was killed in '99. But he put me up on that type of shit, and that's what made me become the person that I am, and also inspired me to become the artist that I am today.
Yeah, you're deep, CF. I like that.
Yo,
Yeah.
man said spirit of discernment, bro. I'm like all the way jacking that. Like no qualms about it. When you hear me saying that shit at work, you know what it is. You know
Yeah,
what time it is. Yep. You know what I
but
mean?
I mean shit like but I know me and Teak we got into the same shit at around the same time. So a lot of people during our time actually that been in this, you could tell when someone's gonna stay in the game for a long time. And I could tell that Dontique was similar to me in terms that we made from the same fabric, and that it don't matter what how the weather changes or what people's opinions are. We just keep doing. We was just gonna keep doing music because we've been doing this for so long, and we never did it for clout. We just did it because I mean Dontique said it himself one time. He said he got into music because he wanted it. He didn't know how to pray. He thought that his prayers come through music, through writing verses to speak to God. I thought that was pretty dynamic. I was like, oh shit, because that's sometimes we don't know how to pray. Probably I'll pray to whoever the Almighty or whatever great spirit is up there comes through these verses. So that's why we don't stop. Does somebody stop praying and shit to God? Nah. So we don't stop rapping because our raps are basically us praying. You know what I mean? Us trying to get to that level and shit.
Yo,
But T could
if
elaborate
this
on the
was
shit.
I
His
would
does.
love
if
to
this
hear
was
that
if this
elaboration.
word, if this was Funkmaster Flex's show, there'd be wild bombs being dropped right now.
Yeah, but
Yo,
T could
that's wild,
elaborate on
man.
that because
Yeah, nah,
he'll
please,
tell you about
please.
the word up.
What happened?
We waiting on you, T.
It was yo. You remember
Can you
mad long
repeat the
ago when you
question?
said? I remember he said. Remember mad long ago when you was like you was like the way how you started rapping was because you was trying to talk to God because you don't really pray. So you play with
Nah,
your verses.
I pray, but I think I think the I gotta I gotta I don't know. I think the when I write the word, it hits way better because I talk to him a lot. I give thanks to him a lot. I give thanks to my ancestors a lot. So I think that's way better than me just throwing some whatever in the sky as far as like. And I pray before we perform every time too. But I think the verses do me a lot more justice. That's all that is.
And their question was like, what got you in a rhyming into taking it seriously? What made you take this rhyming thing seriously?
Cause dude said I had to be better than Rakim. I came on my block rapping, and they was like,
That's
"Yeah,
deep.
but you ain't better than Rakim." So
Yo.
my whole life I've been trying to be better than Rakim. So so my so my OGs on my block will look at me with some respect. Word of mother. That shit
Yo,
happened
that's
long ago,
crazy.
but that was my goal. And I'm a little kid. I was talking like what 10, 11. They talking about, but you ain't better than Rakim. I'm like, all right, cool, watch. So I've been chasing that. I've been chasing that. But I turned it into me being the best me rather than me trying to be better than Rakim because there's only one Rakim.
That's deep.
Facts.
Rakim
Yo,
is a
that's
beast too.
that though is like there are certain like um you're such a great articulator. CF, you'll probably find a better word, right? But like there's so many like kind of like uh points that like everybody hits on in this interview that we've been doing in this series, and like many people, like Dalma said the same thing. She said that like she went back to her block and somebody on the block was like, "You ain't better than Big L though." You know what I mean? Which is like so typical for where we come from and how it is when we're growing up. That like people like there's always somebody somewhere that's gonna be like, yeah, but you ain't better than such and such.
I
It
And it's
gives
think
you
like
something to
some
reach for.
No,
It
I'm
gives you
not.
something to reach
no,
for though.
it
I'm
is,
gonna just say
it
that
Even if
does.
you
that's
don't reach it.
that's definitely around the world though, because I heard that too.
yeah. I mean the one thing I do know about being from the East Coast or being in New York or New York area and shit like that is that people don't give a fuck if you nice. You could be nice as hell. Somebody be like, "That's what's up. That's alright." And then you be like, "What? I just did all of this fucking work, bro. I did all of this shit." They be like, "Yo, who gives a fuck?" And that's all they gonna say. And you be like, "But what's the explanation behind that?" Ain't no explanation. I just don't. You alright? That's it. I know it happens every place else in the world. It's just the way our East Coast people say
Mm.
it. They be like, "Go and get your fucking shine box," and you be like, "The
Okay.
fuck, B?
What?
I
What?
just did all this shit. I done battle mad people. You see me do my numbers up and down. Be like, that's what's up, but you ain't no star though. And that's just the way how that's just East Coast shit. East Coast shit is always go through some vetting shit, cause there's just auto haters on autopilot all the time.
Fact.
And people were just doing that because they just trying to bust your chops. They trying to out here is about to get under your skin. The people just fuck with you just to fuck with you. That's just the personality out here. You could wake up and people be like, if you from a different part of town and you come here, people be like, oh, he think you all that because he from Brooklyn. Fuck Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? People say that,
Yeah.
or people.
But the other day I was out to dinner and an old man started having a heart attack or something. I don't know. He passed out but our waitress was in the middle of like serving us our food, and like the homies was like dead, like, yo, but where my food though? Like nobody cares about
Nobody
the
get.
dying man. Like it was like, yo, where is my food? Like what is
Yo,
the issue right now?
That's fucked up.
I'm like, I think the issue might be the like old man that's dying at the doorway to us, guys. Like
and
I was like,
that's
we all had like half of our shit, right? So like I had my rice and beans, but I didn't have my carne guisada, my stew, my beef stew. The wife, she had her pork chops, but she didn't have no rice and beans. The homie had her fish, but she didn't have no rice and beans. And then the other homie had her rice and beans, but she didn't have a beef stew. And so I was just like, look, I mean, we all got something in front of us. We can just start eating this until the rest comes out. They were like, nah, yo, where's my food? And I'm like, bro, like the dude is dying. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yo, no, and it's wild true, like what you say. Like
that's New York.
Somebody get duffed in their face.
Food, bro.
Yo.
But it be like that. Like,
I was in between. Like I didn't like I was like slightly understanding of the situation, but seeing my friends while out, I was very proud of them. Like I was like, man, I'm proud. You guys
for the record, this is a real Facebook post with a video. You videotape this shit.
I remember one time we in Switzerland, I see Nas and shit. And you know, Nas is the homie, right? I think for me, he top God MC. He's up there, up top tier. You already. And I just nodded like, that's what's up, like what's good. And Tech was like, that's what I like about y'all. Like y'all don't jump on nobody's dick, cause other people be on tour, be like, yo, trying to get like. And I never. To me, it's like, I think like he ain't better than, you know. This is the autopilot mindset about someone that's out here. That's not, he alright, fuck out of here. He ain't better than me. You know, that's just the way how people think out here, yo. It's just like
East Coast gift and the curse.
It's just like, and yo, that shit blocks you from mad shit, cause you already, everybody looking at you like you a wild dick. You don't mean to be it, but something about you comes out and be like, yeah, he could do that, but I could do better. Fuck out of here. And it's just part of the. So that I knew when I grew up, people would be like, "Oh yeah, I heard you rhyme. Yeah, you alright." You know, people tell you that, and that's just. But it makes you want to go and step your game up, though. That's why the competition level is so high up here, cause you got so many people that you got a chip on your shoulder and you got to prove to, and they know you dope. They just don't give a fuck, cause to them we got so much data out here. It doesn't matter. People will get easily distracted and shit like that. So you gotta really, really be rocky. I remember one time I was in San Antonio, Texas, and I said Austin by mistake, and I was getting booed and shit, and I was like, y'all can suck my dick. I'm gonna overcome this shit. Fuck out of here. And yo, they gave me wild dap, and I got to rock and finish my performance. And the girl that came on after me, she got booed and shit, and she started crying. And I was like, I don't know why the fuck you crying. At least you ain't get booed in New York. Like if you go to New York and you rock somewhere, and no one says anything back, consider that a good day. Consider that a good crowd.
Word.
Because sometimes motherfuckers will just listen to you and they be like, that's what's up. But if you could overwhelm the crowd and do your numbers out in the city, then you know what I'm saying? Then you're doing some levels. And it don't matter where you go at in the world. Once you already rocked in New York, everywhere else is like, whatever, this is a cakewalk. And that's why even when I got booed, the motherfuckers was amazed that I just kept doing shit. Because I'm like, this shit is light. Because you ain't grow up the way we had to grow up here with people telling you you ain't shit. And you had to earn that. You had to earn your skill set. After the 20th time, there's people saying you aight when you know you're not. So it is what it is. I mean, like Teak said, it's a gift and a curse. But at the same time, it allows you to develop tough skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and get up there and
facts.
shit like that.
Big
And that's what gave BMR this longevity, is that East Coast toughness, that resilience to be like, all right, that's what's up. And you know what I mean? Like you could see the towers drop, and I still gotta go to work. I still
Yeah,
gotta pay these
yo.
bills. Fuck is
I
wrong with you?
after I had a friend. I had a friend who worked like next door. He worked at Century 21, which, like, for anybody who's from New York City knows that it's like right
That shit
across the
right
street from the
there.
Twin
Yeah.
Towers, right? So like, I was worried as soon as they like I see it on the news, and I walk all the way to his crib. And then when I see that he's there because he took the day off of work because he's a teenager who really just like would call out of work randomly, right? I was like, oh, it's lit. Like, let's go downtown. Let's go get some pussy and shit. Like, no, I didn't care about
That's
the whole two buildings that dropped and all those people that died. I was just like, yo, my homie ain't died. It's lit. Let's go get some pussy.
yo, wild
Yo,
right? Like we wild
yo,
desensitized and shit.
my uncle called out that day. He did the most ghetto shit. He called out. It was the ghetto clairvoyance. He called out the data shit. I was
Ghetto
like, yo,
clairvoyance.
word
Word.
up. I was like, you did some real ghetto shit and lived. You amazing.
I remember me and Teak was actually got up that day. It's told you an events that we seen throughout our lives together, and we was both like, "Yo, this is some wild shit," because we both worked in the same for the same company. Like I got him a job where I was working at this investor relations firm, because this white dude from the I guess he moved into the hood and he was hiring people and then wanted to sponsor them to get Series 7. Like he saw that there was some talent, with some of us. So he got hired. It was an ill ass story, just taking people from the streets and shit. But we was out there now, right there. We right next to the Twin Towers across the water, and you see them shits on fire and shit like that. And me and Teak was bugging. It shows you like the images that we have together, which is makes the such a dynamic duo when we on record, because we seen things together at pivotal historical moments and shit. But getting back to that, when you see something like that, you see buildings drop, and you see the people always busting your chops, it gives you a sense of, it desensitizes you, but it also gives you a different type of empathy that other people don't have, because you experiencing shit from a whole different scale. And then on top of that, it also gives you that resilience to be like, yo, you know what? It don't matter. Just like the towers dropped and through the ashes they rose and brought about the Freedom Tower, the same way that our music is gonna continue to keep rocking regardless of what kind of obstacle there is, because of where we from. Just because of the nature of the people where we from. It just doesn't stop. Buildings don't stop, B. I don't know what's going on around the world, but during the pandemic, motherfucking buildings
Wild
are still
buildings went
being
up.
built.
Wild
Construction workers
buildings.
still
Yeah, I
working.
kept on thinking
You
that.
know what
I
I'm
kept on
saying?
thinking that. I'm
Like,
like, yo, I don't see the construction workers stopping. Like, they're all still building. Buildings are still going up.
nah.
And
And
I
that's
have
an
a friend who you know, right? The homie Paulie Hustle. You know him from around
yeah.
the way
Yeah,
out
yeah,
in
yeah.
Jersey.
Yeah.
And by the way, Paulie he was telling me about like you back in the days and him. He was like he used to beat him up. I was like, you know what? That
Whoa.
seems legit, fam. Like
Yo,
seems like the homie around the way that's like the young Debo and shit. Like
nah, you could ask Teak. I was skinny back then, but we was doing some wild shit, right, Teak? We was young kids doing
look,
some wild shit.
there's
Nah,
nothing
he was
wrong with
skinny,
it,
but
yo.
he was skinny, but he was walking around slamming motherfuckers. Like,
Yeah.
but no, but in Jersey City, for some weird reason, there was some shit I learned that people will want to wrestle each other, and CF would like he would see somebody or like one day these two brothers was there. I'm not gonna say their names because it's embarrassing. Both of both of them wanted to wrestle him for some reason. He slammed one on his head. He and the other brother didn't want to wrestle no more, but he still slammed him on his head. So, like on
Yeah.
the outside on the concrete though. It's like,
Yeah. Nah, I know that this is
Um,
not inside of a ring with
that's
like a bouncing
Teak.
floor. This is like,
that,
yo, you
that
slammed
yeah,
homie on his skull on
yeah.
concrete and shit.
And
That's like
that was a regular event. Like we would walk
Yeah,
around
yeah,
and punch each other in the face on some regular shit. Like and like my
yeah.
pops would always say, my pops would beat my pops would kind of beat us up. Like, yo, put your hands up, and he would be like, yo, if you could fight me, you could fight anybody out in these streets. And then we just would fight each other, throw each other into the grates, do
yeah.
like little weird shit, like just beat each other up. So just in case we come outside and we know each other, somebody gonna fight. We ain't about to be sitting around with a bunch of motherfuckers. Like, if I punch you in your face, you're gonna be mad as hell if this other dude punch you in your
Yo, that's
face.
crazy. I remember one time it was I think it was a Halloween, yo, and we coming out of a studio. I think it was Electric Lady or something like that, in out there in NY.
Jesus, that's a classic. By the way, that's like a
Teak had the
super
hook up there because his man Roey used to
amazing
his man
name
Roey
drop.
used to
By
be
the
out
way,
there.
you know, isn't Electric Lady the studio that
Jimi
uh
Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix used to record out of? Like, didn't he create that studio or something like that?
Yeah,
Something
that
like
was
that.
his spot. That was his spot.
That was his
But my
spot.
dude
So
Roey had a section in there where he would like rent out equipment because he had a lot of equipment. So he would rent out equipment to people in in that building and shit. But
yeah,
Wow.
finish your stories. Yeah.
Teak Teak wrote recorded. So we coming outside and I'm like, I don't know. I had this. We used to be fucking wilding out on people and shit like that. So I hit this random dude. I threw something at him, and he went to come target me heavy as hell. Like he was coming to fuck me up. And he's a precision motherfucker. You could tell if he hit somebody, he got precision. He quiet, but he got precision. And he just threw an apple, like, and it caught money right in the fucking head, yo, and like fucking reconfigured his whole trajectory and had money just walk like a robot the opposite direction. I'm like, how hard did you hit him, yo? That he changed money's whole fucking style. But Teak that kind of dude, like he quiet, but he got precision. Like if he hit you, it's gonna be precision behind that shit, or if he's
I'm gonna be
throwing
real
something
though.
at you, he's gonna calculate that shit.
I've
That
heard a
was one of
lot
my
of.
But
good
the
Nolan Ryan days. I
I
was
heard.
in
but
the
the
Nolan
East Coast
Ryan.
Nolan
made
Ryan
that.
days. Hey,
Yo,
same
the
age group.
the 90s East Coast, the way we grew up, made you kind of like it was you had
Yo,
to
that
be
is
you end
like.
up being ruggedized and shit.
So like I've talked
Word
to
up.
a whole bunch of people now from New York, right? And I don't think anyone's ever been able to like paint a picture of what it's actually like the way your man's throwing an apple at somebody. Really puts
Yes,
it into perspective of what can
really,
happen.
really does.
We came to the
Yo,
Really does.
studio and all they had in the studio was fruit. So we came down eating some of it, but I had an extra one in my hoodie. So, and he was coming. He was coming at he was coming at CF full speed.
yo,
Like,
it
nah,
was, yo, that shit
Yo,
was crazy.
you know what's
Yo,
crazy is you really, I know back in the days, right? So like, I bet you that really was like a food you planned on eating. Like when you took that extra apple, it wasn't with malicious intent, right? It was
not
like,
not at
yo,
all. Not at
it
all.
was
I
like,
wanted
yo,
that.
I'm eating one right now. I'm gonna need more food later when we get high again or whatever, or we do a million things, right? Even if you don't smoke, right? Like there's a reason to have the other apple. It turned into, now I need to use this apple because
As a weapon.
homies
that
homies
shit was
coming on some
gangster.
juggernaut shit for
I don't know
for
what.
the
Yeah,
bros head and shit. Like,
T Kid on hard as hell because I was like, oh shit, money just shut down. Like money was coming full speed ahead, just coming straight at me on some robot shit. And then when T Kid went to Apple, he just like gave up and was like, okay, and then just walked on his other direction. I never seen nothing like that in my life before, and I was like, yo, this is the weirdest shit that I've witnessed. And then after that, I just witnessed a bunch of weird shit. But I was just like, I never seen somebody get hit with an apple that hard that it changed their mindset. Like, imagine you in mid trying to like a Willie Mammoth in mid trying to go get somebody, and then he just got hit with a rock in the head and just decided to walk the other way and said fuck it. Like I never seen nothing like that. That shit was bugged the fuck out. But it gives you insight into how like sometimes we were ultra aggressive and shit like that. At that time, you
word.
had to be ultra aggressive because that was the climate and that was the culture.
Yeah,
Nine, nine,
that was how
nine,
it was.
90s hip hop was by default people were getting robbed. And by default, in order for you to be accepted into this kind of society, you had to rob and be menacing and be whatever would entail the characteristics of what was the saying at the time, a super predator, as they would say we were. We were just kids, but
That's
we were kids
literally
growing
what
up.
they.
We were kids growing up in a time of the United States where being aggressive was only a part of they were prepping us for war. The culture preps us for war. and we were just acting the part, and that's it. We were acting the part to our capacity. So it
Shit,
is what
Saya
it
took me.
is.
RIP, our brother Saya. He took me to a robbery, and I didn't even know we was robbing nobody. So he was like, "Yo, come with me
Yeah,
over here," and then start sticking people up.
The
It was a
classic,
little
come with me
different,
over
bro.
here. The classic,
yeah,
come
that
with me
was.
over here.
I, I remember you couldn't go to. They invited Saya one day to Coney Island. Oh no no no! I think he was somewhere in the Bronx. They tried to rob him. Or I remember back in the days, you ain't want to go to Coney Island because if a chick tell you go meet her somewhere in Coney Island, you was gonna get robbed. You was gonna get duffed. You was gonna get ganked. Or you know the deal. They was out there waiting for you. They was out there plotting. It's that whole. Remember that meme? If there's like 30 heads outside of a project lobby, what you gonna do? You gonna go meet up with your? Oh, don't worry about them. And then that's how you get your ad. That's how you get fucking jumped because they already plotting on you. Yo, son, it was like a wild, weird, dangerous time. You could get buck 50
Yeah,
at any
it
time. You
was
already
New
know the
York,
deal.
the New York City, Jersey City. Well, there's a few, right? Because it's not even just Jersey City. Like Newark was like that, and Patterson. I mean, there's wild, right? Like and that's across America. Like back then, it just was like that. Like that's how it was
Yeah,
in our neighborhoods. Let me
and
ask you guys a question. Right, there's one of Holden's joints, right? Like back then when y'all were like after you had gotten into rap, because y'all had gotten into rap and like pretty early, right? Like were there any other like hobby, like did y'all draw
mm,
or dance or you know what I mean, like
I did both.
into any both?
Dontique did that.
That was
You used
mad
to,
Yeah, I did
so
concerts.
both. I started dancing before I fucking started rapping. I was drawing before I was dancing, and I still draw to this day. I don't dance much. I'll do a little bop here and there,
That's
but that's
true. I
about
never
it.
really see you dance.
I don't dance,
Dontique is the
but I still
Dontique.
draw.
He's the artist. Like he the real artist in terms of like some the theme is art. So if you're not doing music, he always gonna find something to do with art, whether engineering, whether drawing, whether teaching other people how to make beats, whether learning how to edit a video with because the theme is talent and being artistic. Me, I'm just a rapper.
One of the best.
rapper.
Yeah, I was just a rapper. I always rapped, and I stuck with that because I didn't know. I was a tape technician at one time though. Like I used to fix tapes. Like if you had your cassette tape got fucked up, you recorded something on Bobito and
Yeah,
Stretch and shit got
I did
messed
that
up.
too.
I'll unscrew that shit. See what I mean? T could do everything. I was just the guy that I was really good at rapping and shit like that. That's my main thing. That's what I always was good at and coming off the top because it was mandatory back then that you had to freestyle in the 90s in order for you to test your bravado as an artist or where
Right.
you was at. Like that was default. You had to be at least a ill freestyle. Even Teek's freestyle was up to the guard. So we had a you know what I'm saying, that was just part of the we hit almost when it came to this MC and shit, we was already hitting the each one of those elements needed in order for you to be the best you can in that field when it came to rhyming. So that shit was bugged out. That was a different time, B. Nowadays you don't gotta freestyle, you don't gotta do none of that shit. You could even just be like, yo, I just learned how to rhyme 15 minutes ago and come out with a hit record. But at my time you had to prove yourself and shit.
Yeah,
He's a
my
rapper
pops
though.
made me play every sport. He-
Oh,
I had
word.
no
So
choice. I
you
had no
play
choice.
baseball, you play basketball, play football.
I played everything. Not like in like the no league or no shit like that. On the block, on the
Word.
concrete.
Yeah. Two hand
Yeah,
touch
word.
and tackle,
Yeah,
Yo,
word up.
that's what
I played
I
all that
remember shit
shit.
like that. Yo, tackle
or two
football on
hand
the
touch
concrete.
turning into tackle. You know what I mean?
Yo,
Some one person gets tackled, then it's, which by the way also like because like I was when the milk crate challenge came out, I started like thinking about like what would be in the Hood Olympics, right? Like all the things that possibly could be in the Hood Olympics. And somebody was like, "Yo, like a good fight." Like I remember always loving a good fight, and I'm like, you know, honestly, I feel like all of these Hood Olympic categories will end in a fight regardless. Like,
Yeah,
so
that's the
we don't
default.
even gotta include like a fighting segment because each segment is gonna CeeLo is gonna end in a fight, Spades is gonna end in a fight. You know what I mean? Slap
Yo,
boxing is gonna end in a
Yo,
fight.
son.
Like
yo,
literally,
Eh,
all the things that we do end up
yo,
in a fight. You know, like
Roof
No,
playing the
manhunt.
dozens,
Manhunt never end a fight.
playing
Roof
playing
and
the
Rock should
dozens
be in the
ends
Hood
up in a fight.
Olympics, yo.
Roof and Rocks should be in the Hood Olympics. That should. It should.
Yo, like manhunt never ended up in a fight and shit.
Yeah, you're right.
Manhunt is
You're right.
or Wallsies
What the
never end
fuck
up in
is
a fight.
manhunt?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Wall. If Wallsies is suicide or anything like suicide, that would
Yeah,
also end up in a
Wallsies
fight
is
next
just
Manhunt
time.
is like
If
hide
you
and go
bean
seek
somebody,
on drugs.
hard
yeah.
enough, they coming for your head, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah,
you
like
don't
you.
fight.
Yeah. If you playing handball, but I don't. You know what?
That's
We
how I had
always.
one of my first fights because of that. Somebody beamed me like real hard on that playing suicide, B. And yo,
Suicide. Yeah.
I
Yo,
yo,
I'm realizing
my
it as
dude
we're
told me,
talking, and Holden's looking at us because you guys got to remember,
No, no.
Holden's from
Suicide I'm
Montreal,
following.
right?
No,
So
Suicide I
like,
got that we got our version of that one. But the manhunt
Manhunt
thing,
is
no
like
fucking
like
idea.
Teak said. Manhunt is like basically like uh it's like how to go seek, but on steroids and shit. It's
yeah.
basically is.
I guess that doesn't really explain it
It
that
does. I
well.
can't because I haven't played Manhunt in so fucking long and shit. But there's certain
Yeah,
East
nah.
Coast games like
I barely remember. I barely remember. Like I was watching some reality TV show. Oh, Big Brother. The wife was watching Big Brother. We were watching Big Brother, and we were watching like them like in the background type shit, and like they just in the house by themselves, and it's only black contestants left. So they start playing card games, and it's all like card games that we play. So like it's like speed
face.
and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and just like games. I was just like, oh my god! They even busted out Jim Rummy at one point, and I'm just like, which is not something that we used to play like that. But like I was just like, I can't remember any of the way that any of those games were played. I just remember playing them. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
like
Um,
Manhunt that shit. You know
yeah,
Warsies.
Manhunt. I remember playing
I know in
Manhunt.
Brooklyn they
Skelly,
play Skellies. They don't play that shit in
Skelly,
Jersey
yeah,
City
yeah.
though.
I remember
I,
playing Skellies
I
and
don't know
like
what
I don't remember
Skelly's
how the
is.
rules to any of this goes. You know what I
yo,
mean?
I
Like I
do a skelly
forgot.
court every summer. I do a skelly court right in front of my house with the chalk. I can't do it with the spray paint because I get in trouble.
That's dope.
But I do
That's
it with the
dope.
chalk, and me and my kids used to play all
Damn.
the time. Sometimes I do that shit and play by myself. I used to be nice in that shit. $5 a
Yo,
pop
that's
over
dope.
here. Go.
That's
When I
dope. You handed it over to another generation. You know what I mean? Like
when I went to Brownsville with him, I saw a Skelly Court and I was like, that's different because we ain't do that where I was at in Jersey City and shit.
What's a
But
skelly court?
that's a it's like some people make a little their own little. It's Skelly. Go ahead, Teak. You could explain it.
It's a numbers game, and all the boxes got numbers in them, and you got to get from 1 to 12 within the boxes. If you get on the line, somebody could hit you and move you out the way. You gotta get
It's
from
with a
box to
top,
box.
right? It's with a
Yeah,
top and shit.
it's
you put
what
the wax
it
in the
would
top or whatever in the top, and like
it would
the
be
milk
like
top.
yeah, the milk top. You could that's
Yeah,
the best example.
and then some people will cheat and get the pickle
Well, hold
top.
on, that's not a good example because Holden once again is in Montreal, so I think he drinks milk out of a bag.
No, we got
Oh,
cartons.
what? You
No, we
got that
do.
off.
So we do have the bags. I don't
Shots
like the
fired.
bags. The
Shots
bags is like wildly like if you cut it wrong, you pour it bad and it sprays milk all over. So I'm moved back to carton.
Oh
Man.
shit!
bags be
Yo, they got
cheaper.
bags.
So like you get it's like weird. It's I don't know like a gallon of milk in 3 bags split up into 3 bags. You have to get like a special bag container for it, and then you cut the corner
Holy
of the bag,
shit!
and it's
That's deep.
I haven't done that shit in a long time because again you have to be good at it and I'm not. But I'm good with the cartons.
Wait,
Yo,
but
That's like
cartons,
the
but
little
y'all
weird
so
juice. That's like the weird juice stuff we had in Amsterdam. See, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's mad bugged out. I forgot about when we lived in Amsterdam. That shit was an experience. To somebody from out here going over there, it was like being on a farm, but it wasn't. It was mad bugged out.
They
But
had, they had
like,
llamas in the projects, B. That
It's a
shit was a
I remember that, yo.
bruh.
I
My
remember that
man said
shit. Yeah.
llama. Hold on. All right. You know what? That's a. You gotta elaborate
Yeah,
on
They
that
had
for
sheep
me.
that's
in the
better than no.
projects and all type
Yo,
shit.
they had a whole zoo in in the middle of the project. It was crazy.
We lived in the projects in
What?
Amsterdam. B, that shit was bugged the fuck out. Like that shit with mad Africans and shit and Surinamese people. That shit was wild the fuck out. It was mad different. But
I was about to say. So you know what? Why don't you guys tell us like right? Like let's start the origin story of like
Yeah.
you guys meeting each other.
that shit's bugged out. You want me
I,
to
I
start or Dante started?
I met CF on the steps of Ferris High School. My pops didn't want me to go to Wingate, and if he would have sent me to Wingate, I probably wouldn't have went. So we moved to Jersey City and went to Ferris. And
I was about to say these are Jersey City high schools, aren't they?
yeah,
Wingate is
yeah, yeah.
Brooklyn, I think, right?
Wingate is Brooklyn, and then we moved to Jersey City. And he put me in the Ferris High School, even though we at the time we lived in Newark. We used one of his friends' address, and and I
You
went to
remember?
school in Jersey City. But I like we was on the steps, and me and I met Saya first. Saya was rhyming. I walked up. I started rhyming. I do Jihad that he was talking about in one of the songs was holding the radio, and then CF walked up. And he started rhyming, and we just all went at it again. And was friends from that day because we all thought each other was dope. I like their style. They like my style. That was
Yeah.
that from my end.
We wrote a song. We wrote a song that first day. We wrote a, you I think you dropped Dutch when we came from the other job when that stagehand joint in the Sprinter. Remember when I told you drop me off right here at the high school? That's the high school where I met
Yeah.
Dontique at. Right there by the
Oh, word.
projects. It's right across from the project. So we
That's actually like a stone's throw away from like the Holland Tunnel. Like it's right
yeah.
there.
Yeah. We right close to the we wild close to New York. Out of all the points that's close to New York to downtown Manhattan to where the Twin Towers was at, Jersey City would be the closest in the Jersey side. On the other side is Brooklyn. Because Brooklyn is to the east of Manhattan and Jersey City's to the west, where the East River separates downtown Brooklyn from downtown Manhattan. The Hudson River
The
separates
Hudson
downtown
River.
Jersey City from
Yeah.
from downtown Manhattan. So like when I met Don Tico, whatever, there was a buzz in the high school that there was a signed rapper, and I was like, signed rapper. I thought I was the nicest motherfucker out there. And then I met Teak, and he was wild nice. Teak's style was reflective of the area that he came from, Brownsville, Brooklyn. You know, what I'm saying boot camp, click, all of that. He had that suave. He had more swag, and he landed on the snare better than me because I was practicing that unorthodox style that was brought forth by like the Grave Diggers, very RZA influence, very Sons of Man ish when Wu Tang was really popping. Very I always wanted to be like so experimental with my shit and be abstract that I would replicate like Cool Keith's kind of offbeat style and the offbeat style of In Company Flow. I think this pre In Company Flow though, but it was like around that time when people were using both of those styles in New York City. You can either be off the snare and do the offbeat shit, which is whatever, or you could be Brooklyn
In the
style
pocket.
on the snare in the
It's not
pocket
even it's New York.
chanting.
That's just like classic New York style, that pocket that is just like, man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like fuck, that pocket is beautiful. Like,
So
I'm
Nas
in
in
a
the pocket, you already know like that Nas shit that he's in
yeah,
the pocket
yeah,
on the snare,
yeah.
and I was practicing the other style, but there was an exchange as me and Dontique started to as our friendship developed. We exchanged styles and shit in some sort of way. And I got back into being more on snare and shit, and he incorporated some of the abstract shit. And then that, all them years of doing that and like changing our styles and like sparring with each other and shit like that, brought about what the BMR sound is currently. So it's something that happened organically. It's not something that we was like fucking. This is the BMR sound. Nah, BMR sound was a mixture of whatever was going on in Brooklyn at that time, and then whatever was also going on in '90s hip hop in Jersey also, and mainly it's really a mixture of grave diggers and offbeat and uh boot camp click style, and then fused into one shit. and created what we got now, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? It used to be my man Saya, like I said, and then he got murdered in '99 by his girlfriend, and our styles was still in development. And
Rest
then
in
as
peace.
time goes
Rest
on,
in
we
peace
we
for
came
real.
to where we got out now. So, but
Yeah,
like
I
that
got it.
history was bugged out, cause that first day we wrote a song together, right? T, we wrote a song, Russian Roulette, I think.
Yeah, that shit was dope too.
Yo, how did
And
y'all
then
come up with that
from there,
name? When did you come up with the name?
What, BMR?
well,
Yeah.
Billion Man Rebellion?
the
In Amsterdam. It was supposed to be like an album, and we were in Amsterdam. What that was 2000, and we were
I,
thinking about album names, and CF came up with Billion Man Rebellion, and we was just like hold off on it. We'll get to that as far as an album at some point because we were already recording the album out there, and instead of using it as an album name, we use it as a crew name because we've been looking for a name as a group for a long time, going through a whole bunch of different names, and none of them really stuck. So when we went back to BMR, when we pulled that back in, it changed everything as far as like the outlook on the group. We ain't got to look for no other name after this.
yeah, that shit was bugged out, cause we used to have another group called UN. When it was me and my boy Side, we was Caesar Destruction, and then with Dontique, and then we became UN3, right? United Nations to the third, because it was three of us and shit. Like always, things always start out in trilogies, the Holy Father, Jesus, the Son, God, and all that shit, and it's the Holy Spirit, whatever fuck. And then Puerto Ricans being black, Indian, white, trilogies, there's always a trinity there and shit like that. But
Let me
when
see.
Saya
See
got,
one more time. He was showing his tattoo.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, that
he
three.
got the he
Yeah, I
got the
got the
three.
three.
So the three
Yeah,
signified
yeah.
like me, Dontique, Juan, and myself. Then since Saya got murdered, it was only two of us, and me and Dontique got closer. And but around us there was a group of other people that together created UN3, but we still didn't have BMR yet. We did an album together called UN, called UWAP, Unorthodox Poetry, when we lived in Amsterdam. We were invited. Long story short, my boy Jeff Vermeer was a producer. He got connected through Dontique's father Don with some other uh, financier in Amsterdam who got us to go out there and do an album. So we did one album, but while we were out there, we were thinking about other ideas for future albums. And BMR, Billion Man Rebellion, was a topic. And that didn't come to fruition till about 17 years later.
Damn.
that's like a
So
Yeah,
we
because
long
we
didn't
were both
time.
doing a bunch of solo projects, and
we did
it,
mad
it
solo projects
it
and
take
shit.
time to get to the point where you like, come on, man, we need to just do this shit. At 20 years later, we do another album since because we did the first album in 2000. 2020 we did another album, like, and then
Yeah.
now like 2021 we did another album. Like, it took a minute for us to get past the I gotta be solo. I gotta just do my album all the time shit. When we came
Yeah.
together, it's something different. First we did like a mixtape as like a trial run without us even knowing it was a trial run, and we seen we could do it. So then we just said fuck it.
Yeah. And then I started when T had a saying he got a family, taking care of his family, doing what he gotta do. I was I was mourning Sia's death, so I was going across the water to New York City. In the meanwhile, Teak was always recording music, learning how to produce, learning, mastering the in and outs of how it is to engineer and mix and shit like that. I was out there going back to New York City to the open mic scene, and my boy Amir put me on to some shit called the End of the Week show at Baby Jupiter's at that time, and that's when I
I
started
don't mean to cut
rocking
you
at
off, but my
Baby
phone about
Jupiter's
to
and
die,
shit.
and I'm out in these
Got you,
streets. Just letting y'all
got you,
know.
got you, got you. So like, and it's getting to that point. So I was rocking at Baby Jupiter's at the EO Dub show, End of the Week show, and that's where I met Immortal Technique, and I got cool with Immortal Technique, and then eventually I signed to his label, about 10 years later when I met him in 2000. Yeah, a label called Viper Records. I signed to them. I did an album called Ascension. I traveled the world on with them. I went on Tim Westwood and all these other places and shit like that. And then while I was on the label, I was gonna drop a second album, but I guess there was some things going on with the label and a lot of other issues. I was just like, you know what? I might as well, me and Teak might as well just drop the shit that we had, cause I couldn't not have music out, and I know it was so much amazing stuff that Dontique and myself put together. And I always my main goal was when I got the Viper was to get to a point where Dontique and myself could do an album on Viper Records and travel the world together. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't work like that. So we
Right.
dropped our album. I didn't know how to drop the album. I didn't have no finances. I didn't have no backup. So I asked one of the fans, because I traveled extensively with Immortal Technique and I guess developed, amassed a little bit of a fan base. And one of the fans, I was like, yo, I don't got no money, B. What should I do and shit? They was like, yo, I want to drop this album that I got that Dontique made and my man DJ Static produced, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. All I need is some money so I could mix it down and put out videos and shit like that. So they like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Start a GoFundMe. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You got $15. If you only get $15, at least you have $15 more than what you had. I said, fuck it. And so I put it to GoFundMe. And mad people told me don't do it. But I was like, man, fuck it. And then look, I raised $5,000 from the shit. And
That's
that was the
wild.
album that we used to finance Static Files. And the Static Files was produced entirely by DJ Static. DJ Static is a real down to earth homie that we all know and shit like that. He's a Immortal Techniques personal tour DJ, and he's the great homie who's been producing for a lot of people within the New York City open mic scene for quite some time. And having DJ Static with Dontique and myself together, all blue collar people, we all work. We don't live off our music. He worked for Con Edison. I work for the Hudson County Register's office. Dontique works as a porter for one of the developments out here in Jersey City. So we all got blue collar jobs. We all representative of the working class, and
That's dope.
we put in our
And by
our,
the
our
way,
music.
for the people who are tuning in who aren't from the New York area, Con Edison is essentially like our electric company.
Cause yeah, that sometimes I just like those are names. But yo, can I just say one thing
Yeah, yeah, like
about your videos? Cause I watched your music
yeah.
videos. I thought it was super cool that you had the Uber one, and then you had the one where it follows up
Oh
and it's
yeah,
like you get out the Uber and the video starts off and he's like, "Yo, that was a crazy Uber ride." And
yeah,
honestly, I
yeah.
just thought it was like well made. I didn't watch everything that you did, but there was all your stuff have storylines and things like that to tie it together.
Yeah, with that one specifically, we was like, cause we didn't have a real budget, and we had to be resourceful. And I was like, yo, no one's ever done like a Uber ride before, where like if you pick up someone and then they just happen to be coming out of a studio, and then someone else happens to be a producer, and like, and then you happen to be a rapping Uber driver, and y'all just connect the aux cord, and then boom, start like a little cipher with while you're picking up other people on the Uber ride adventure. And then they're also like, you could tell the white girls in the back like, what the fuck is this about? No one ever did that. And I was like, yo, that's pretty, we should try that. And so after we did the treatment, my man Ezru, who's a dope ass video director based in Staten Island, Mexican dude, a real great person. Like, we started rocking. He's like, yo, he made it happen for us. And then the next video after that is a song called Stormborn, but it kind of breaks off with one of the passengers invites us over as a group now, because we developed the camaraderie from that Uber ride, to go to a I guess it's a art gallery to see an artist by the name of Anthony Boone, who has some art on display. And one of the name of the one of the paintings that I'm looking at, I thought it was rather interesting, because I was explaining like, like, damn, it has a lot of different like tiers, it looks like, in a cocktail of all these different themes and shit. It's like, it's funny that you say that. The painting is called Stormborn, and the name of the song is Stormborn, basically. And Stormborn means like you made it in this rain through all this weather and shit like that, but you're able to weather the storm and make it through the other side. Like, just to give you some insight, I'm Puerto Rican. I come from the Caribbean. Partially descendants from the Arawak native Tainos that are from there, and they had a god that one of their many gods, but one of their gods was named Huracan, which is hurricane. You know what I'm saying? And it's a telling tale because it shows that it doesn't matter how many times hurricane came about there, these people were still resilient. Their huts were still there. They still made it through the hurricane on the other side of the storm, and they still were able to pass on that bloodline all the way down to this day to myself. You know what I mean? So like Stormborn is also stating like it doesn't matter if there's a pandemic. It doesn't matter if there's actually a hurricane like Sandy or Maria, that the lineage is the legacy is gonna continue on and shit like that. And that's a theme, an ongoing theme in our music, that it really doesn't matter what the circumstances, the music goes on, the legacy of music. There's a continuum that has not stopped from the days of our ancestors to now to the days of our future, the future generations and shit like that. It's just ongoing, 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 ongoing. But I'm glad that you brought that up because I didn't think many people really paid attention to that. We put a lot of like insight and meanings inside of our videos, and we don't think that they actually pick up or get any steam. But someone like you, from Montreal, could look at that and be like, "Oh, I see what you guys are doing."
Yeah,
It
honestly,
makes me feel better
it
about
was
myself and
YouTube.
shit, and
YouTube
about what we
set it
doing.
up. Like it just happened to play like one after the next, and they gave me the recommended, so I was going in the flow of it, right? And I'm like, you watch the line, and then you're in the group because like I'm like, who's DJ Static? I was like, who is this guy? And like I'm sure I've heard the name,
Yeah.
but like when you see a face for the first time, and you put that next to a name, it like changes a bit, and then it connects. So I'm watching him. He's super charismatic in the video. It's really like really interesting because like y'all, I don't know. Okay, I don't like a lot of music videos. I very rarely even remember stuff because there's not a lot of interesting to me. But then the following one, there was that whole painting thing, and the fact that it kind of felt like a storyline. And it almost reminded me of that Lil Wayne storyline thing he did at one point. That like just it didn't. I don't like that one album, and it was like the videos kind of connected, and I'm like that's really nifty. And
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that the two go in together, but in an artistic way. And it also was paying homage to Anthony Boone, who also is a blue collar artist because he used to work for Conrail, which Conrail is a local train company in this area on the East Coast. And he would like speak about like that his bones would be brittle from being cold out there connecting cars together and doing all this stuff but he would also even at the end of the day when his bones were brittle and everything was fucked up was still paint, you know what I mean, in the night in order for him to get his real true uh purpose, which was to paint, to do all that, the days of the snow and the rain and the sleet and all that shit. Is every as hard as he put that shit on paint, and that's what I wanted to also exemplify on in that video and shit. A lot of our videos have meaning, you know what I'm saying? Even the recent video where we was is for this video called Three Kings Day. Three Kings Day is significant within the Puerto Rican community here in the New York City area because that's our real Christmas, you know what I mean? But on top of
I did
that,
not know
three,
that. Wait,
because
I had no idea.
yeah,
Yeah,
everything
Three
has
Kings.
like some
The other
everything
way.
has yeah, and also Three Kings because three people started the group. BMR was not only Dontique and myself. It used to be my friend Juan, but as you know, he got murdered in 1999. He got murdered by his girlfriend and shit. So we wanted to always pay homage to him. But within the video, like I'm smoking a cigar, and like cigars, tobacco is also something that goes back to the natives of the Caribbean because they're the people that created the word tobacco. They used to smoke tobacco as in religious ceremonies and shit like that. So we kind of pay homage to our ancestors, paying homage to our friends through symbolism within our video. Everything that we put together in our videos, even within our music, everything has a purpose. We didn't just throw shit out there to throw shit out there. There is a stream of consciousness to a degree, like 50% organic and 50% organization. But even what we're doing organically is something that's deep in the subconscious that's manifesting on record. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
That I do
there's
know.
a purpose to why we write and what we do, what we do. Like, we don't just do shit just to do shit. We haven't been doing this shit for all these years without there being some sort of meaning and symbolism and shit like that.
I can
Even
say
Ghost Lineage itself.
I
My
can
bad.
just say that I've never ever had anybody manage to justify smoking a cigar in a way where you almost made it sound like a moral responsibility, and that's fucking impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
Legend
mean,
is a legend, B.
I don't like rarely I never really understood the dynamics of what it is to smoke a cigar. I always assumed that it was something associated with like machismo or animal from like the A team. But then when I started finding out like the meaning of it and the purpose of it and that it was more of a spiritual situation, and
Yeah,
I started looking at things like, wow, I got this deep ass legacy and these deep roots that I'm disconnected from, which takes me back to the idea of Ghost Lineage. Like Ghost Lineage is the remnants of a lineage that does no longer exist or missing link. Like I have 20% Arawak ancestry. I never met these people. I can't speak Arawak, but I know that there's a disconnect, but it lies in the shadows. Just like Weehawken is the name of that Lenape name for that region, but no one knows what the fuck Weehawken means. We just know it's Weehawken, and
Weehawken
the
is
Lenape,
a
or,
county in Jersey,
yeah,
right?
and there's no it's a municipality in Hudson County, or even
Right.
Communipaw. Communipaw was like a gathering place for all the natives of this side of the Hudson. Even Manhattan, like Manhattan wasn't the big part of this region. The big part of this region was on this side of the river for the Lenapes, and people don't know that because things have been redesigned after the decimation of the natives. Not saying that decimate the things like that would occur, because that's just what happens when humans come in contact with each other. People conquer this shit. I mean, the Romans did it to the Germans. The Germans did it to whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's just human nature. But what I'm saying is like the byproduct of that is what you have left over, and that's a ghost lineage. That's the remnants of something that you don't know you connected to, but it's still you're still connected to it in the background and shit like that. And that's what we're exploring on this record. A lot of that shit is what we're going into, and the dynamic of Dontique and our relationship going on from 1994 till now, and why is it that we are still glued together even though we lost one of our good friends. um that's another mystery in itself, but there's a lot of symbolism in this album. I mean, even in the album cover, it shows us. If you notice, like both of our album covers, the way we started it off as it's in a, corridor. The first one was in an elevator, static files, and we were uncertain on where we were gonna go. And you could tell because you don't know if we're going up or we going down. I'm looking in one direction. Dontique is looking at the panel, but it shows like the disconnect. But there's a beauty in that disconnect. When we actually took that picture, we had an argument with each other. When we took the picture for the Ghost Lineage shit, we had an argument with each other because we was arguing about like are we gonna be in the tracks or out the tracks? And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Are we in the tracks or out the tracks? But also, it
Guys were
represents a
arguing some
core.
fucking dumb shit, but that's
Yeah,
the
but it
shit that you argue when you're artistic
you know what?
brothers and you
I was watching a movie about Herzog or some guy.
Herzog.
It was a
Yeah,
the guy. He's a director. He's a famous German director.
yeah,
And
famous German director. Yes.
there would be this let me see if I can find it. There would be this famous German actor and shit. Let's see. I think it's if I could find it.
Is it that
Herzog.
famous scene with the raft
No,
that they made out of like
yeah, no, it's called Fiscaraldo, right? And
and they're
one of
dressed
the
like conquistadors or something like that?
no, this is I think before that. So that the movie was interesting because it was about this guy who was a rubber baron. He wanted to become a rubber baron, and the reason why he wanted to generate money from the rubber industry, which was the most, prominent, the people that had a monopoly on rubber at that time was in Latin America, right? So he was in Peru, and he wanted to get his money and create a opera house in the middle of the jungle, some weird shit like that. But the actor Klaus Kinski, and the dynamic relationship between him and the director Werner Herzog. Werner Herzog would actually aggravate um, Klinsky to get him upset, so that he would
Yeah,
be so upset, but then he'll get into character, and that
yeah,
that
yeah.
that anger and all that shit would actually bleed well into the
To the
performance,
art.
which is
Yes,
kind of,
absolutely.
which is sometimes Dontique and I go through that kind of shit where we be like, yo,
Yeah,
what the because we knew each other for so long,
yeah.
but at the same time we could get under each other's skin. Whatever the case, the album for Ghost Lineage is another one of that symbolism where we're in a corridor, but uh, uh um this time not in an elevator, where the elevator you don't know if we're going up and down. We're in a corridor and it's a shadow, and you don't know if we're going in or out. Are we coming out of this pandemic into the light, or are we going deeper into it, um into the darkness and shit like that? So that's
I mean,
left
if
for
you,
that's left for people to interpret. You know what I mean? Just like with the elevator scene, you don't know if it's going up or it's going down. And that's what I'm saying. Like every time we put things together, we don't do things just to do it. There's something going on. Either we consciously are putting something in there, or the subconscious is pushing us to put things together in a certain way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Ghost Lineage means a lot about that. It's a lot of that uncertainty. It's the continuum of uncertainty from Static Files. It's actually, there was a song in Static Files called Reasons, and I found out like I couldn't. I found out because I was going with some girl, and that I could only have kids through IVF and shit like that. And this chick was like, "I ain't trying to go through that shit with you. You crazy? You be alright. You gotta deal with that shit on your own. You know, not everybody's gonna go through that road. Like that's just, and that's some New York shit. I was used to somebody being like that, because I'm like, shit, bitch, you ain't doing nothing no different that I ain't never been around all my life. Like that's whatever. We built for shit like that. But that song, a song Reasons, talks about that topic, and it talks about contemplating legacy. What if you can't have children? How would you have them? Everything is based for human beings to procreate. Imagine if you can't, how would you switch that around? So then your legacy will have to be determined and defined in something else aside from that. You know what I mean?
yes,
And that's
yes.
when you reach a whole different level of humanity and shit like that. And so Ghost Lineage also sprung on from that track from Static Files, and it gave birth to that whole idea. And then the pandemic happened, and it just made things a little bit more cloudy. Not only is legacy up to fucking to be determined, now our whole lives are to be determined. Now the whole world is to be determined, because we don't know where the fuck we headed towards. So it deals with all of these topics that have people thinking like, damn, yo, I gotta like I gotta look at things in a whole different way. You know what I mean? I was already in contemplation and retrospect, and then when this shit came in, it just magnified that and multiplied my
Taking
curiosity
it.
and inquiries
Yeah,
like 3 million times fold. So we started dabbling in a lot of these topics. I told Dontique before the pandemic hit, like, yo, we should start recording songs now a lot. And he would be like, we just did an album. I was like, yeah, but fuck all that. You never know what the fuck will happen. You know what I'm saying? We're getting old.
facts.
And I'm glad that we already had like a good 8 joints already in the clip, because when the pandemic came in, we were like, all right, this ain't nothing. We was ready for this. We were supposed to have an album release for Static Files on March 22nd, but Jersey City put a mandatory lockdown because of the rise in cases and deaths and shit, and that stopped us from actually celebrating the release of that album. But instead of being discouraged, we generated some money from digital sales, specifically on through Bandcamp, and we utilized that revenue to finance this album, Ghost Lineage. So every money we got, we just put back into the product. What you supposed to do. We don't make no money. We got regular jobs. Everything we doing is purely out of just the fact that we like doing music. So that shit was interesting. But Ghost Lineage is really a deep ass album and shit like that. I'm really proud.
I liked
I'm really
it.
proud of Dontique for curating that shit.
I,
He put that whole shit together. It's crazy.
I thought it was really good. I was listening to it and I'm like, yo, this is stand out in a style that could arguably be saturated, which is really cool. Like, it makes you want to listen to it again. It's got like the bars and the precision, but then you're right. There's like almost like a flow and ebb to the project where it almost feels like you're listening to a TV show play out. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the main objective was to it has a somber mode to it, a somber mood to it because it's more about having people and reflective on what was going on in this period and that there's other things involved in there. You know what I'm saying? Like even from the beginning, Sunez introduces us as we are with the kind of piano like light whimsical style which gives it a not so serious tone, and then Three Kings goes in there, and then Three Kings is basically a introduction of you know um it's like Three Kings Day is the first day, the first holiday one could say, because Three Kings Day is on the 6th of January. You know what I mean? Even though
Yeah,
it's the Puerto Rican Christmas, it's still starting off the whole new year. So it's like a new year. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
explaining to people who we are and what's going on and how we're gonna continue to go on, and you know what I mean? And it also pays homage to the roots of what BMR is, which started from the three: Dontique, Juan, who's sire, and myself. And that's how that goes into that shit. So that was pretty interesting. And then it goes into like the next song, which is Poppin', and Poppin' is just basically paying homage to our Washington Square Park roots when we would hop the PATH train and we would just rhyme, and you know what I mean. It was more about like having fun, going back to back, and then showing people like we're taking you back to how Dontique and myself met. And then the next joint is Legends Never Die. We had Shabam Shadiq on that shit. And the reason why I always say legend, I always call everybody a legend. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up in an alcoholic home. My grandfather would be like, and it wasn't his fault. It's the disease. Like you ain't shit. You know what I mean? You ain't shit. You ain't a nobody. And he didn't know no better because nobody told him that he could be better than what he was. They told him he grew up as an orphan. So when his parents died, he was raised by his sisters, and they probably was telling him he ain't shit. Ain't nobody was telling him like, yo,
yeah,
you a legend. You could be something better. You could be something greater. And so you know what I mean. The legends never die shit was also because of the fact that there was so many legends that died during the pandemic period. One that stuck out the most, that impacted me, was when Fred the Godson died. Fred the Godson died, but yet somebody like Takashi 6ix9ine could still come out and do what the fuck he does in his what people would deem buffoonery. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to reflect that on record. Like that's crazy. Like, Jesus had no descendants, right? They say he did. He said, but for the most part, the narrative is that Jesus had no kids, right? That's at least what the general consensus is. But a guy like Genghis Khan, who was a murderer and caused all this carnage, has 30 million descendants out there. Yet Jesus had no descendants and has a billion followers, 2 billion followers. Would you have rather have 30 million descendants or 2 billion followers? You know what I'm saying? And that's kind
yeah.
of the dynamics that we was trying to
Yo, I
explain
know, I
in that
know.
shit.
He's fucking. This is
And
the way he
Dontique,
does to me on a regular basis, by the way. And
yo,
that's
that's
why I'm just sitting here quiet, like, yo, just let it rock, fam.
Yeah, like
The man is like
nothing to say. Let him do
a
it.
merchant of greatness, yo. And it's just
Don
like,
Don
yo, just let him
that shit that shit was
continue,
crazy,
continue,
man.
please,
But
legend.
Don verse was about him growing up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and how he had to learn how to be. His gladiator school was sometimes going to Uptown on Harlem Week, and they would rob people and shit like that. And you know what I'm saying? That's where he was
Yeah,
taught his way to be a man, and it gives him insight into that because that was a real thing in New York City. A lot
yeah,
of people don't
yeah.
talk
Nah,
about.
fucking,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. People don't talk about like at the beginning. Freshman Friday was like real, like it was vicious out here. Freshman Friday was not no like, oh, Freshman Friday we get the haze. Freshman's nah. It was like, yo, fight for your life. Yo,
Yeah. So
it
like,
was like fight for your life.
and
Like that.
and there's certain
It was
boroughs.
a rite of passage,
There was
but it
that
was
real war.
bad.
There was that real
Yeah, no,
warrior
it was
shit.
warfare.
Like
Yeah,
Brooklyn
not for
was
real.
really home of the coffin. If you from Queens going to Brooklyn,
Yeah,
or if you from the, if you going, everybody knew like
the
in
Bronx
my
was
day,
bad.
if you went to the Bronx, nobody wanted, you ain't want no,
Nobody.
you ain't want
Yeah,
no problems in the Bronx. You know what I mean? Because the Bronx really be about that life. So
yeah,
like Dontique was talking about his perspective being in Brownsville, going to Harlem, and how Harlem was considered pretty to them and shit, and how they
yeah.
would
It
rob
was.
motherfuckers there. And then Shabam Sadiq talked about, like, you know what I mean, that how he evolved as an artist and how he came to be and how he was a legend. And I think it was fitting for him to close the song out. And it was dope to have Shabam Sadiq on the song because Shabam Sadiq actually lived in Jersey City and he's from Brooklyn. So him and Don Teak had that same connection, and BMR as a group has the connection between Jersey City and Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And then like Safe is basically dabbling into people feel like they safe because they come into the hood and they live in these gated communities, no different than like the Europeans when they built forts in the midst of native land and shit like that. And so we revisiting those kind of themes and we're talking about it. And I mentioned a lot of shit. I remember in the song I said I was like, Midwestern types move to gentrified places, gated community, make them immune to see the world through the eyes of desensitized natives, claim simplify cause they live inside bases, try to switch up the hood, peep the Gemini faking in a fort made from wood of Dutch enterprise slave ships. But we noble savage with the photographic memory, face of our enemy etched in our mind, withstood the test of time since the days of the Lenape. Should I drink the blood and chase it with Hennessy, or change the red rum to holy water and cleanse my soul with the spirits? Man, it takes too much energy. AR's at the colony, the crime containment unit. Care after the act to probe the mind that made them do it. In the winter, they be hibernating through it in this open air prison. Hearts colder than where polar bears living. And I'm just trying to say, like, it's kind of a legacy that's being revisited again. What occurred back then and what is occurring now, where people are coming back into places with the neo savages or whatever noble savages, and they're building these developments, but they're not incorporating the local populace and shit like that, and they're making it look like we're living outside in these outside of these forts, and you think you safe now, but we gonna be able to penetrate inside of those forts. We gonna go in through
Yeah,
that poverty door. We gonna do, you know what I'm saying? So that's one thing we visited. We talking about even though pandemic is going on. Remember, I was saying that buildings were still being built, developments were still being constructed, and gentrification was still ongoing. I would even say more than before because the people that
yeah.
were dying from the
The prices
pandemic were
went
people.
down. Yeah, prices
Yeah,
went
and,
down
and
in
and who
spots
was
that
dying
like
more from the pandemic? Brown people and shit. So it's
and
whatever. You know what I'm saying?
they were steadily moving out of New York, so going back like to their home places and keeping the place in the city and then investing in more
You
property
already
in New York
people
City
left
and
the city. They say, but that's only a shaking for shit to come back to where it used to be. You know
yeah,
what's gonna
exactly.
happen. So I already saw that. Then when we had like me is like it's called lineage. It's like you're not we's too unique. Like me, there'll never be another me. I can't produce another me unless it's in a laboratory. There's never gonna be anyone as unique as me, and that's even now. That's even in a literal sense. So we were trying to explain that away in how one views legacy and taking whatever we had in that song, reasons, the static files, and building upon that in Ghost Lineage and shit like that. So that was like kind of interesting because Don Teak talks about that his grandfather even paid his parents to abort him. Like, yo, I'll give you a new car, I'll give you this, that. Y'all too young because they had him when he was 15, when they were 15 years old. So he was their grandfather was going to give them money to be like, nah, don't even have a kid. You know what I'm saying? So his struggle even to exist is crazy. And mine was like, yo, my name is Nelson Morales the third. My father was Nelson. His father was Nelson. I'm third. Either three times a charm or three strikes you out. You understand what I mean? And that we building on those themes and that shit. And then we had Q&A, which is a question in reference to like like someone's giving, like if we're giving back questions to a panel, and in my panel discussion it was specifically about Puerto Rico and what occurred during Hurricane Maria, where Trump would say, oh yeah, only 16 people died, but it come to count that 4,000 people died, and a large amount of those people that died were elderly people that didn't have access to dialysis machines because the power grid went out. You know what I'm saying? And the lack of empathy from the disconnect between this country and that island living in this commonwealth colonial status and shit like that. And you know what I mean? It shows. I wanted to bring that into realization, and that's another ghost lineage. That's another. Puerto Rico in itself is living in a political purgatory because it doesn't
Yeah.
know if it's independent. It doesn't know what it is. It's in a confused state and shit like that. So that's another one of those. Then from there it goes to miscommunication, and miscommunication is basically like me and Dontique explaining how two different people and two different uh, are talking to other people and they miscommunicating about them. Dontique shit was actually about a robbery that was about to go awry because the other guy is out there like almost like dry snitching on them because through the phone conversation, and how nowadays everything is being recorded. No matter what you say, people are seeing it. And that, yeah, it was an interesting take. Mine was just basically about miscommunication. You know, about how people. You ever seen that Norman Rockwell painting when Norman Rockwell writes one thing and it's a rumor, and then it ends up being something else 30 different people later? So basically, like a lot of people don't know how to communicate, even in the world where we at, where we wordsmiths and shit like that. And the shit goes on and on. Like Abisu's birthday is about Abisu Campos, who was a black Puerto Rican revolutionary who died for the cause.
Revolutionary. Yeah.
Um, but we
Aviso
always wanted,
Campo is like the hero of Puerto Rico.
yeah, we always wanted to do a robbery song. Abisu Campos was a very interesting person in Puerto Rican history because of the fact that he's a black Puerto Rican who was educated in Harvard, spoke 7 languages. He even assisted in writing the Constitution for the country of Ireland and shit like that. So it was mad bugged out. But in this song, it's about a robbery, and we always wanted to do a robbery song. But instead of being a robbery like the people war and dead presidents, where it was about them, we was out there taking the money and then giving it to the nonprofit organizations in Puerto Rico to help rebuild it from the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, and that's what really that was about. And then my man Renez had a poem that he put in there, which mentioned like how life can go within 60 seconds. Again, life in a minute. In 1 minute, you could be contract a virus or be put on a ventilator and shit like that. Pray for me was basically about like people that are at their last whims and they'd be like, yo, just pray for me, dog. I don't really got nothing else to say. Just I'm at the end, and if you could talk to God on my behalf, that would be much appreciated because I can't even think to come up with the right words to say to the Great Spirit. AK is some shit about like I was acting as if I was a gun, but AK really means how we continue to in this world of with so many targets that we become sharpshooters and shit like that. Because we living in a world where we saturated with targets, but what are we shooting at? You know what I'm saying? And this shit goes on and on. The black tie, Aguilar's on that shit, which is pay homage to somebody that's a 360 because I knew Adolf for a while. Black ties and ski masks is basically like just rugged 1990s robbery kind of music, but it's more about that kind of rugged shit. And then Anthony Boone talks about his life, which is a great artist that you saw when we was talking about the video with the painting and shit. Because his father passed away during COVID too, so he wanted to show how he's gonna continue on his legacy, and that we should continue on our legacy as well. Again, it starts to deal with legacy and fatherhood and children and shit like that. And then March is basically the end about what occurred during the the riots, the riot stuff. Dontique was talking about mainly like rioting, but my shit was interesting because I read a whole book called The Golden House by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie was a famous author that one time got the fatwa because he wrote like the satanic Bible and shit or something like that. And it was like against Islam, and he got that mad death threats for it. But in this particular
Mhm.
book, The Golden House, The Golden House is a book where one of the characters he he depicts as the Joker, and the Joker character is really Trump. And so in my song, I'm like, yo, we living in modern day Gotham in this pandemic shit. And they say, remember, you know how in Batman they say if you live long enough, you end up being the villain. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
Yeah,
you choosing the lesser of two evils. So what? You're gonna have to choose Joker, no matter who it is, whether it's Heath Ledger's Joker or whether it's Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Which Joker will you choose? You know what I mean? And then as it goes deeper into the verse, and it explains the Gotham-like world that we live in, and the political situation within this country, where two clowns are actually, you have to choose the one of the less, but clowns nonetheless that are evil and don't give a fuck, are disconnected. It also goes into a love story between these two people, that this guy and this girl, and his girl is really active in the political scene and he's not, but he loves her so much that he wants to be out there for her, to the point where he's willing to catch COVID just so he could be quarantined with her. So he goes out there and they go to like a rally, and this girl, being wild about the cause, snatches like a tiki torch from a Proud Boy and then lights up a fucking convenience store. And in the process, like, the police start shooting, but the one that gets shot is he gets shot running to defend her, and dies for her sake. You know what I mean? And so he didn't really die for the cause. He died more about love. And so what it comes down to is that in the song is like, in all the midst of this madness, in the midst of all this shit, in the midst of people getting caught up in causes, the true thing that still is gonna be powerful and most potent is love. And that's how we ended the record. You know what I mean? So everything in this shit was all connected to each other, and the last legacy of Ghost Lineage is love, and that's it. And that's like the last legacy of anything throughout all humanity and shit. But it was mad poetic on every part of that song and how everything was put together.
yeah,
It
not
only could
clearly.
be it only could be explained like this, son. I'm glad that you let me explain it, because I rarely could get a chance to explain exactly how deep this whole record is, yo. And it's sad that, what I'm saying, it doesn't get as much promotion as it should. But there's a lot of fucking, it's a body of work where people actually legit did research and shit and put their whole heart into it. That's all facts. Word up. So that's
Yo,
crazy.
I
your
appreciate
whole
that.
heart into it. Nah, absolutely. I
Uh,
appreciate the passion for it.
I mean,
Yeah,
Like,
man. I mean,
yo, that shows how much you care about what you're doing, you know? Like, to me, that's the utmost, like, display of, like, like, yo, I care about what I'm doing. And like, most people like to pretend that they don't care, or like they're too cool. And it's just like, yo, do you care about what the fuck you're doing? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, when you're a good artist, you know what I'm saying? Everything's quality. Look, when we work at this stage and shit, if I'm working and I'm doing something, I'm caring about with my coworker. So if I
yo,
say something, if I do something, I'll be like, you know what? Let me make sure that this key is out of the ignition of the fucking the truck that I was driving, or the forklift or whatever, or put it in some place where it's gonna be visible, so it doesn't make a time difficult for them, because it's about quality. It's about,
yeah,
and that's how you do. And quality starts with care. You
we
gotta
care.
care about your
Absolutely.
shit. You
Yep.
gotta care about, like, the music you put forth. Like, when I do my
Yep.
music, I'm doing research. I'll read a fucking book. If I got to. Sometimes I'll read a book and get a line. I'll go to the gym and go running so I can have better breath control, so that my performances and showmanship is up to par. You know what I'm saying? Like Dontique and myself, as you know, we've been in this game since '94 and earlier. But I'm saying, when we met each other, and this shit didn't happen by night. We ain't no Backstreet Boys. They ain't make us from scratch. You know what I'm saying? Our relationship on record developed organically through a period of fucking 25 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so we just kept rocking and rocking and rocking and rocking. And look, we did one album in 2000 and didn't come out with another album to the Static Files in 2020. That's 20 years, B.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shows how long
20
the friendship
years.
goes, though, how deep it goes.
Yeah, and why we could, and that's what a lot of thing what this shit is about. Is about friendship. And even through a pandemic, um, we were on our will was not compromised. I mean, I had COVID and shit. I was on Frio Dub ramen with COVID. And we lost people to COVID during this shit. That's a fact. I ain't saying no names. We all know like people that we lost and shit. I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
but that didn't stop nothing. You know what I mean? Even through this COVID period, like we lost people not necessarily through COVID, but in during the pandemic, we lost people.
During the
Even Vice,
pandemic, yeah.
Vice passed away through not that he had, but in this period, and yet the music
Yeah.
still goes on, and Zoom is now popping, and EO Dub continues to more, and EO Dub was even given props to by like Lupe Fiasco and Talib Kweli, who recognizes what it means as a cultural institution for hip hop in the New York City area and throughout the world and shit like that. Because if it wasn't through EO Dub, I wouldn't have never met Immortal Technique, and I would never traveled the world. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily. I would have always known Dontique, obviously, but it was through those travels that I met some fans that were able to put in money for a GoFundMe to finance Static Files, which the money generated from Static Files was able to finance the next record, which is what we talking about now, Ghost Lineage. So you know what I mean? And there was a lot that had to do with EO Dub.
Yeah, I mean, if it
So
wasn't,
everything is wild connected, B.
if you gotta think about it, if it wasn't for EODub, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Word.
That's 1,000%. If it wasn't for EO Dub, me and Dutch wouldn't never meet each other, or we never
Yeah.
even would have been work. If it wasn't for
Facts.
EO Dub, there would be no
Yeah.
groundworks,
No.
all that shit.
I, I, I look at all my entire hip hop family and like the family that I've built through like the culture, and like that family is absolutely completely 100% all linked to EO Dub. So, like and it's not even like I'm the guy, right? Like you and my brother Jess, right? Like are
Yeah,
like two of the guys that are like, yo, these are people that like EO Dub puts on like the main stage and like praises, right? I'm not even like you guys, and still my whole family is tied in through EO Dub. You know what I mean? Like I'm not the
yeah,
guy
like
that was at EO Dub every Sunday, but and still my whole family is linked through EO Dub. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't
that
know
shit.
none of the people that I call my brother's brother if it wasn't for EO Dub and going to EO
Nah,
Dub.
EO Dub is like that's a glue, cause that shit been. You
The
know what I mean?
glue.
It's really just put everything together, and it's all purpose. It's all means something in some sort of universe. This is connected in different ways that I cannot explain. Everything that I've seen, even with my travels with Immortal Tech, or even with other people that I know, even me knowing Akon through my man school got murdered and shit. Even with my man Juan passing and shit like that, all that shit is connected in some sort of way. I just can't connect the dots, and I don't know what it means, but I know that somewhere at the end of this shit, there'll be some meaning made from this. I just don't know where the pieces fit at this point. But I know like these albums are trying to explain that shit away. I know that. So like the next album I got coming up, I think is gonna be called Legend Black, cause there was I told you I always call everybody a legend and shit like that. And one day I was walking, and I saw my peoples, and with his daughter and his son-in-law, or his daughter's baby's father. She was pregnant. She didn't have a kid at that time, and I didn't know the young kid was an up and coming rapper who was pretty dope. I didn't know that at all. So I'm just out there. I just came out of having COVID, and I'm just happy to just be alive, because COVID was life for me. I was asymptomatic like a motherfucker. I lost a cousin. They put him on a ventilator. And my man Jose, he's 35 years old. He died. He had 3 kids, and it's sad that 3 kids are not gonna have a father and shit. But when I was out there, I was talking. I was like, "Yo, what's up, legend? This, that, and the third." And I was cracking jokes. And the girl was happy as hell. She was pregnant, and her baby father was there. And once I left, my man Vic was like, "Yeah, yo," he said, my man got so he lugged the name Legend. That you said Legend. That he wanted to name his unborn kid Legend, and then
That's so
the kid got murdered.
wild.
The upcoming father, the father, the upcoming rapper, he got murdered. And I didn't know that the kid's name is Legend Black though. The last name is Black, so it's Legend
What?
Black. And I was just
That's
like, yo, that's
crazy.
gangster. That's somebody like, cause of you, the kid was named Legend. And I'm like, that's bugged the fuck out. And so I was thinking probably the next name of the album, and I was trying to think about it with Dontique would be as a homage to that rapper who was pretty dope, who never got to see his day, and so many people don't get to see their day. Called Legend Black, and that's what we was trying to. That's the next theme of the.
That's dope.
It's the ongoing lineage legend
Yeah, yeah. No, I already
idea,
see it. Yeah, I already
but
see it. I hear it.
but in this one I'm trying to be like Legend Black, and this is homage to those who like remember in Legends Never Die, that song, but building upon that, like all these legends that never really made it. Because people celebrate lives of old motherfuckers that made it. But how many hood stars you know never really got to see? Look at that dude, Little Snoop. Never got to see he was such an amazing artist, and look how quick he got taken out. And so many lights out there, so many beautiful people that we never
Yeah,
know, that never got to tell their story. That's another Ghost Lineage type shit. And so it's a build on that. It's a build on that. I don't know, like we've already started some of the tracks, but I really want to dabble into that theme called Legend Black. I think that's gonna be the name of the next album, Legend Black.
That's dope.
that
And
sounds
there
like
is an
it.
actual kid named Legend Black.
That
You know what I'm
sounds
saying?
like that's the natural progression, and you already like you already just right now. You literally fucking walk the path to connect those two. You know what I mean? Points in
Yeah.
time. Those two albums. You just connected them. So how could you not do it? What you gonna fucking
Everything,
call it
you
something
know,
else? Like,
everything got poetry involved in shit like that, and I feel like this one we need to go down deeper into this whole where does this whole legacy legend lineage shit lead us to? You know what I'm saying? And if the root is connected to something else, or if the root just gets abruptly cut and there's nothing it's connected to, and that's it. That's as far as it goes, and then move
Right.
on to something else. It's like when somebody be like, "Oh shit, man, I made it this far, this, that, and the third. Oh fuck, I can't go anymore." But sometimes, like, it's just like trees, right, or poles on your block, right? You got certain trees are not as big as the utility poles, right? So like you gotta climb down the tree and then climb up the utility pole to go be up farther than the tree could go. You know what I'm saying? And or the vice versa. You know, trees continue to grow. But let's just say, like in that analogy, it's like you can go up but so far at one thing, but you gotta go back down and cross over to go back up again that journey to go even higher.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's the way I look at life. I don't look at life as like, oh shit, I took a loss. Nah, I went as high as I could go at this point, and I just gotta go back down, walk across, go up another fucking pole, and then reach another height. And I think that if you look at things through that perspective and that lens, it 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 puts everything in a different. It gives you a whole different insight, and I think that's what each album is supposed to do. You're supposed to go out from the height of whatever it is, go down, then climb up, and then go into everything. Each album should have a psychology. Immortal Technique was adamant about that when he spoke about constructing albums. Um, that each album should have a psychology. It should be a personality. It should be a person. You're creating
yes, it
essentially
should. I
a
agree.
individual and shit like that.
Yes,
You know what I mean? So I think that you should have meaning behind what you're writing because of the fact that you're fleshing this person. You're putting the eyes, you're putting the heart, you're putting all this shit together, and it's gonna be somebody. Whether it
yeah.
comes out fucked up
When
or
you,
somebody good,
yeah,
it's
it's
another
an
thing that you
idea,
made.
right? And it's
Yeah.
born inside of somebody else, and it keeps being born in others, and it gets stronger and bigger until eventually, like literally, there's people that are being born that are the living. embodiment of the idea that was
I,
put forth.
that's what I think, and I think things start as ideas. I was reading this book. It was this book called Sapien and shit like that. I think the author is this Israeli dude, and he was saying that a lot of things in the world that we live in, great civilizations and nations were created off of myths, like ideas that aren't real. It was the imagination of somebody that said this is what it is, but it's not really. Like the people that died because of Greek gods and Zeus and all this other bullshit, and then come to find out that none of that shit is anything. It's nothing. But people put their whole lives and staked their whole lives on it and died and sacrificed their lives. And people sacrificed their lives to these things that didn't exist just because of the fact that it allowed them to unify themselves under a belief system. And a lot of times, if you believe in a lie long enough, it becomes true. And sometimes all we
Facts.
got is the truths that we've been told all these times. So everything starts off as an idea, you know what I mean? But it, now that we know what is a lie and what is a truth, even though we coming up with these lies today, because today's truths are tomorrow's lies, right?
Right.
Right.
Um, are we gonna try to make it at least closer to the truth than the lie is gonna end up being anyway?
And actually,
That's
there it goes in reverse, like you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
Like
can go in reverse. Shit
today's lie is tomorrow's truth, because like science fiction movies have like been for years like being science fiction, and then like as the years progress, they
Yeah.
become science fact,
that
and
yo
it's
that
just like,
that is gangster. So like that's why the power of an idea is something
yeah,
that's like is amazing to me. You know what I mean? Like what we put down on record, we gotta understand like right now it's gonna be it caught up in a generation where everything is saturated with a bunch of records. But give or take a couple centuries and shit, people are gonna be looking back. Let's say if there's some sort of calamity or some sort of disaster, and your record just happens by chance to make it. What you documented, is it worth them memorizing? And that's something that's always been real deep to me when I write shit. Am I writing some shit that many moons from now, let's just say by chance or some sort of nuclear fallout, my shit is still exists on record when no one else does? Did I end up being the perfect example of my generation and what I had to at least offer as a human being?
Mm.
And
hmm
that's the way I believe how records should be um, thought about when you create them. Now, not everybody got to do that, but that's what I
nah,
think about when I'm
yeah,
thinking about doing a record. Like, this is an idea, and will this idea withstand the test of time? And will I be on the right side of history with it, or will it be on the wrong side of history with it? And will it actually be something that resembles more of the truth of the day? Because that truth in itself may end up being more of a lie, or will it end up becoming more of a lie? Saying when it's aged properly and pulled out that wine cellar. I'm just thinking like, yo, that shit bugs me out. And I always want to be on the right side of history. I always want to be that when someone looks at it, they'd be like, well, this really aged well. I seen somebody that was talking about the situation with the Taliban, and he was like, and this is before Biden was talking this stuff. He's like, the Taliban will never be able to take over the government. They're not da 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 da. They're not organized da 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 da. And this is an Afghani, but you could tell he was an Americanized person, or he was an American, Afghani of American um, from America, Afghani American, right? And you could tell his perspective was tainted by a Western view of things and shit like that. But when shit really happened, the Taliban did take over the government, and they did it in no time. It didn't take that long and shit like that.
no,
And
no time at all.
everything that he was saying was false. And I'm like, wow, that
That did
didn't
not age well.
that did
That
not
did not
age
age
well.
well.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, is the music that we creating, and when people hear it many moons from now, do we have that insight? Do we have that
Mm.
experience? Do we have that that spirit of discernment that can withstand and age well through the ages? And that's what I'll be thinking about. I think a lot about when I'm writing a song. I'm like, what am I writing some bullshit that this is nah. Sometimes you could write a stream of consciousness, but even in your stream of consciousness, if you are so connected to yourself, if you connected to the true self, this shit could land on a mark
Right.
10 years from now. You know what I'm saying? I always contemplate about that. It's mad deep when it comes to doing music. I just don't want to do shit that's just bullshit. I want to do shit that, and sometimes overthinking about it could kill the idea in itself. So there's a lot of different variables involved when you're trying to create a a perfect record for yourself, but also create a perfect record for generations to come, and not the ones that you see in front of you. You know what I mean? So like that takes a lot of insight. It takes a lot of knowledge, and that's I always look for that that point. I'm always looking for them eureka moments when I'm creating to be like, all right, this is sound and this is good. And Dontique helps me create that. He helps me develop that because I don't gotta put all the work into it. I do what I gotta do, and he fills it up on his side, and then we're able to kind of like come to a conclusion on what we want within a record that could be sound quality.
Right.
So but you know what I mean? Like shit, I could talk about this. Remember when that time Dutch? We was talking on the phone. We was on the phone for like 5 hours and shit, talking about shit. So
Yo, we were having a great conversation.
Yeah.
It's okay.
yeah,
I
man.
love I love
No,
I love when yeah. Go
your
ahead.
brain
Hold.
is like you're one of those people where I'm like, this is awesome. I just gotta sit here. You're just good. You're just and you're interesting,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
basically
You're
like,
not saying nothing that's trash.
and we're
I'm
just
not
like,
sitting here like I'm not sitting here like oh man, none of this makes sense. This is all a bunch of
nah.
hibbity hoopla.
And it's
No,
also
this is all
like your
this is
delivery is
all
like
like
on
yeah,
point.
yes,
It's like
yes,
a storyteller of yesteryear relaying, like this is what, like, I picture entertainment was back in the day before there was all the tech we have. Just, really well spoken
yes,
orators orating.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, I used to
absolutely.
when I was younger. I used to watch I like watching Tavis Smiley, and I like watching great interviewers like Charlie Rose and shit like that. Because I always like to study great men of history of and of today or whatever, and like how would they interact. Like imagine we have these greats here today. Like we don't have a Abraham Lincoln um or Alexander the Great or a Mensa Musa talking and shit like that. All we got are the people of today, and we should appreciate these folks because and the technology that we have, that people could sit across the table from each other and talk, and it be recorded and documented in video and visual. Not something that's just committed to memory, but some shit that we can actually look on tape and be like, see, it did happen. You know what I mean? And confirm
Yeah,
if it aged well or if it didn't. But like I had that appreciation for uh those moments when I would watch them, because I was a avid studier of history. I loved history a lot, and to see history unfold before your very eyes is amazing to me. You know what I mean? Like you looking back and you're seeing shit happen in real time. It's not like some shit that you read in a book. I saw 9/11. I saw that shit. That's history happening in the now. And I saw it with my fucking eyes. I didn't live in Oklahoma and shit. I was right here. You know what I mean? So like
yeah.
I'm living history
Facts.
right the
I
fuck
feel like
now. You know what I'm
facts.
saying? So like, and if we are the witnesses of the people, the witness, right? Witnesses of history occurring in the now, then we owe it to the rest of the people to feel the value of what we appreciate and what we see, and it should be you want people to feel how much you value something. I remember somebody saw me rocking. He's like, I don't like music. I don't like your music, but I like your music. Do you get what I mean? And I'm like, I think I understand. I like your passion for the music, the type of music genre that you do, which I don't appreciate. I don't appreciate your music genre, but I like the way you represent it, and it made me closer to
What?
kind of make piquing an interest in the type of music you do. And I was like, that's crazy that I can do that. That I could change, sway someone's opinion from someone being adamant about not liking this kind of music to actually being like, you know what? I got second thoughts about that. And when I see, and the reason being is because I, s- I want to reflect. I want my music to reflect and my performances to reflect the experiences that I see when these greats are being interviewed by people. Like when these greats talk and shit like that, I see them and I'm like, yo, these are great minds, and I want to have that very same aura when I perform and shit. Like it's like sitting down and experiencing an interview and shit. You know what I'm saying? Or even when we're interviewing, I want people to be look back at this and be like, yo, this motherfucker was saying some shit, and he just didn't say shit just to say shit. He really had value, and he really had a lot of meaning behind what was said, and that it did something, that I took something away from me watching that interview. It made me a better person, or it made me want to be or do something better, or do something with quality, or shit like that. But I always watched the greats, and the reason why I also watched the greats because I didn't have any, and I looked up to great men, and I'm not trying to put anything down on women, but I was a young impressionable boy who didn't have any like real strong father figures in my life. And I know that's like a typical story that's told in this country. But that really impacted me. And so the only way that I can find good male role models was either in the streets or on TV and shit like that. But not on TV watching G.I. Joe and none of that bullshit. Like watching the greats being interviewed and then getting something from them. Like if there's some photosynthesis that I could get a little bit of light from what they have, that I could take that and probably rub that off on me so I could be a better human being, and it'll reflect in whatever I do. And going back 360, when that one person said, I don't like your music, but I like your music. And I was like, alright, I've already fulfilled, there's already a sense of fulfillment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, so I
Yeah,
think that that's pretty dope, and I think that the
I
um
think it's pretty dope too.
when you
Definitely
around
dope.
great people and shit like that, that shit rubs off and it cascades down from your mind to someone else. And I want it to bleed through the music. That's why when I do music, I want you to know I just don't do shit just to do shit. Like there's really a lot of ideas in that shit. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there together. It's amazing that people could look at music and just discard it like it's nothing. Like that shit is crazy to me. I remember one time I saw my friend. We watching a boxing match. You know what I mean? He's black. I'm Puerto Rican and shit like that. And there's two Mexicans fighting in the beginning of the fight, and they fighting their hearts out. And I'm like, yo, it's like, oh man, I ain't nobody, no nobody want to see two Mexicans fight. And I was like, what the fuck? These people put their whole fucking time in the shit. They bust their ass in the gym. They had to fucking not fuck their girls. They fucking probably fought 80 fights before they fucking took a L. And they don't matter because they two Mexican dudes? Hell no. And then that made me think like every human being is a legend. Everybody got value. You know that? Everybody got a story to tell. Because I mean, imagine all them times where there was no technology to record people for them 200,000 years of human history. How many greats we had? No one could tell. No one knows. And imagine that we don't think that they're great because they just don't look the way we want them to look. Like, oh, Jesus don't got blonde hair and blue eyes, or Jesus ain't black. Well, then that's not my kind of Jesus. Then fuck out of here. Does that still take away from the man and the value? You know what I'm saying? It's stupid. It's
Nah, they just
superficial
turned them
shit.
white.
Yeah. Or people could turn them
It was
another
just like
color and
poof,
shit like that.
just yeah, yeah,
But
fact.
yeah, like so people will probably like you know what I'm saying that one doesn't devalue upon how you perceive them to be, because quality is an inside job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I look
Yes.
at people when they look at shit, I'll be like, yo, you bugging. Like you would dismiss somebody. I bet you if I look light skinned, I'm on a color, I could get dismissed. How many Puerto Ricans contributed to hip hop? And there's rarely any Puerto Ricans that represent or being represented in hip hop in a certain way or be given platforms just because they look the way they look. It's fucking stupid. It's idiotic. It's fucking dumb. But I tend to not think about human beings like that. And I'm glad that God, not even a God. I'm glad that I was came into a family that's racially mixed. Cause ain't nobody more racially mixed than fucking people in the Caribbean, and that you could see things from all
Right.
sides. So that makes you have empathy. Not that I'm the most being in the East Coast will make you desensitized, but being
Yes.
from quality stock could allow you to make sure that your empathy kicks in when you're in a world that allows you to be desensitized. You know what I'm saying? So like that's the
Hmm.
gangster shit. But that's another topic for another day, B. We could explore that shit all day. There's mad shit that this shit could go mad deep. Wild deep, and I don't even know where the fuck it'll end up, but it'll be going wild deep, wild deep.
Rabbit
That's gangster.
holes.
Rabbit hole. And that's what I'm trying to find out. Yo, Dutch, I'm really just trying to put the pieces of I don't give a fuck about the fame and other bullshit. I don't give a fuck about that. But I definitely want to make sure that my mark is made while I'm on this earth for a short period of time. You know what I'm saying? Because I've seen so many people on not Legend Black, for example, never got they shit, never got to explain themselves or never had that, and are no different, even with all the technology that we have, than those people who existed uh, within that 200,000 years of human beings being on this planet that had no way of recording this shit because they probably ain't know how to paint and they ain't know how to write, and that's bugged out. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people from our city who never. There's so many people in the Bronx that you never hear. Does that devalue
I,
them or that take away from them as human beings? I mean, shit. Fred the Godson, yo, look how amazing of an artist he was, and now it's like now they on to something else. It's bugged out, and that's just how human beings are. We don't be having time to think. We the other day I just found out somebody died and I ain't even my man Greg Fitch, he was a homie. I saw him on Facebook all the time. He always supported me when I was a kid. He used to take me to Washington Square Park to battle people. And he died out of nowhere because of a heart attack. And since
that's crazy.
so many people died from this COVID shit, it was just like, oh, another death. It became like whatever. Like I couldn't even honor his death the right way because I was so caught up in the saturation of death during this period. If that makes any sense. And
Makes perfect sense.
how do we not lose our humanity when you're in the midst of all this, you know what I'm saying, of people just dropping like flies and shit like that. And not only are they dropping like flies, back in the days people dropped like flies and they didn't keep no presence. Like you didn't see them constantly. But now you got them having a presence on social media that still feels like they still around. You know what I'm saying? That shit is bugged the fuck out.
Word.
Cause it's like
That's
their
a big
presence
fact.
is
I hadn't thought about that.
that's the crazy shit. They're present. You looking at old like statuses that they tagged you in, and you be like, God damn, b. Like we just
Mhm.
talked last month, and we have
Facts.
recorded conversations and of having this. You know what I mean? Back in the days when people would die, they had no correspondence like that. You ain't had no. You
Yeah.
probably had some letter correspondence, but who the fuck was writing? Was you writing letters to your man back and forth? Unless y'all was in jail,
You know.
right?
No,
So now it's like, you know what
I
I'm
didn't
saying?
write
The
no
last
letters.
Nah, so it's like you people got stories and they stories will not be told because nowadays everybody got a story to tell. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just
Yeah, no, everybody's always had a story to tell. And like you said, it's just we haven't had the means to be able to hear everybody's stories.
Yeah.
And that's part of
yeah.
what we've been doing with this shit, where it's
Yeah.
just like, yo,
Or
I felt very strongly of the mindset of like, yo, we gotta like document ourselves because nobody's gonna do it for us. You know what I mean? And like it's
I think
important for
that
me to like be able to hear my homie stories because I've lost too many homies now, and it's just like, yeah, I guess maybe like some sort of humanity shit, like we're like too close to seeing all this humanity go away. It's just
I
like, yo,
think
I want to talk to all my bros.
everything you said is right. Cause like when I look at what we going through and what we seen, and the people that continue to that were here no longer here and shit like that. The last thing that we do is we take a piece of them and we just add it to who we are. You know what I'm saying? And that stays within our our genes. Like we take their genes, merge them with ours, and then they exist through us. They exist by our actions. They
Fact.
exist by what we do. They exist of how we depict them on record and shit like that. So that's why, you know what I mean. I was really thinking deeply in this next project because I really wanted to take on. We were gonna take, me and Dontique had an idea. You remember the dude from the scenario? Remember the here it is, baby pa. Remember he died and shit. He was the scenario remix. You never heard the scenario
Yeah.
remix? The
Yeah.
first dude, he passed away, right? And it says that he was in
Uh,
spiritual essence in the song. Busta Rhymes says it. You know what I mean?
Word.
And then Redman had a song dedicated to a rapper named Rockefeller, who people didn't even know about, but he allowed that dude Rockefeller's record, like the half of the record, to play on the There Is a Dark Side album. A lot of people don't know that. So Dontique and myself was talking about like, yo, you know what? Why don't you be I'll be Rockefeller and you be that other dude from the Scenario remix, and then we'll do a song in remembrance of them. And then the last verse will be either a verse of Saya or that kid who's the father of Legend Black, as like, you know, a to pay homage and shit like that. And so
Yeah.
this
Sounds
whole
like the album is definitely gonna be called Legend Black.
that's
Sounds
I'm
like you
trying
got a
to
lot of reasons to call it Legend Black. Legend. You know what I mean?
I got
Like
so
I
many
think I think
ideas
it's
for this
fair to
shit.
say.
I got so many ideas. Yo, the ill shit is like we put all these ideas on record, Dutch, and these shits be going like fucking nowhere. That should be sad as fuck. But
Nah.
at at the end of the day,
Nah.
that's the test. That's the test of a true musician. Are you out here like
Yeah.
Nas said? When you doing this shit, are you doing this shit? You doing this shit with or without a record deal? Like we bringing it back to that essence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Right now, you get what you witnessing right now is the maturity of an artist who never really had their day in court, but the beauty in not having their day in court because the court may be a kangaroo court.
Mm. I hear what you're
Mm.
That
saying.
shit may just be, that shit may not even be what everything is wrapped up to be. It's like you go into the city of Oz, you go into Emerald City, and you find out the Wizard of Oz really ain't no fucking wizard. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of times that's what the industry is. The industry is not everything is cracked up to be. You actually are in a better place by being pure to who you are now, so that many moons from now, when people really dig your record, they at least find the true essence of what society was feeling, and not what, you know, a couple of people who are controlled by some sort of entity want you to feel.
Right.
And I think that's even deeper. You know what I'm saying? Uncompromised people. Because that's what you find hard in the circus. If it's a circus, everybody's there to play an act, right? That's what the circus is about. So what do you do when they don't, when they not a part of the circus? So then they ain't, that doesn't work well.
Right.
Because even the fucking, you know what I mean? That shit is just bugged out. And so sometimes you're not a clown. If you're not a clown, you might not feel, it might not work because you don't know how to play that role. Because you just not built to be a clown. And that's bugged out.
You're not built to be a
Yeah.
clown or an elephant.
That's what I mean. You built to be outside of that shit. So like it's a lot of shit that there's a lot of different topics and ideas that even from this conversation I'm gonna revisit, and I might actually comment them on record because that's the best way to
That's dope.
explain shit.
Word.
That's what an artist
Big
does.
facts.
A artist talks and they create while they talking. Like
Spit
I'm
your
having been,
perspective
yeah, we
on
having great
perspective.
conversation.
A lot of
We're having great
perspectives.
conversation, but at the same time we getting ideas and we have, you know, we rewriting and shit to make shit,
No,
to
it's
make
fresh.
even this has quality and shit. You know what I mean?
I
But that's
definitely
gangster.
think this has a lot of quality. I can tell you one thing: these conversations about my
Beautiful.
art game, you just like, you just learn so much off of this shit. over, and I think like what you say about everyone being a legend is true. Like basically, all I do now is talk to a lot. Well, one of the things I do is talk to people and learn their like life stories and highlights, and what they feel is important, and everybody's got like a real even like the most basic life situation can produce some pretty remarkably interesting stories. Like you wouldn't believe how sometimes what you would think to be the most mundane people make for the best interviews. Because like
Yeah.
everybody's a legend at the end of the day. Everybody just we all live the life. And I
He's a
think
local
That
legend, you know, like
that
that's
mean,
somebody that's like a town. That's the guy in the town that everybody's just like, what? Or that's that
yes it is.
Norm in
or
Cheers, right? Like that's like
yeah,
Norm, and everybody sees
yeah,
him. They're like, oh, it's fucking, it's Peter, it's fucking, it's Heathcliff,
Or you
it's
see that like
whatever the fuck
yo,
is the
you see
guy,
that
you know,
like in
like
every
all these
workplace, you know?
people, and
yeah, man.
but they don't get no, they don't, there's no statues for them, there's no songs for them, there's no, you know, there's no nothing except just those memories. And it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, nah, we get to nowadays, we get to memorialize like ourselves and others more. And I think that
the,
this is a great
I
tool
mean,
to do that.
with social media right now, people customize their profiles to their wants and likes and things of that nature. So it has them closer to them being their own celebrity within their own mind. And sometimes, you know what, there is a degree of narcissism, but narcissism with people that suffer from that particular personality disorder is a 1% within the whole population. The vast majority of us need people to tell us like, yo, you a legend, you dope, you
Mm.
gonna be alright, and not take it to a level like I'm a fucking megalomaniac and everybody ain't shit. But it is true, there are those megalomaniacs out there that you have to be careful with. But the vast majority of humanity aren't megalomaniacs. They will just want someone to tell them like, you know what, man, you gonna be alright, and you a legend, and you got this. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. It ain't rocket science. People just need people to. If we uplift each other more, we come from the East Coast where we always told you ain't shit, shut the fuck up, this, that, and the third, and that's a compliment. You know what I'm saying?
Or
That's a compliment. You wake up and somebody be like, "Fuck you looking at? Fuck you looking at?" And then smile like, like only we could understand that.
yeah,
But that's not the attitude that I suggest the whole world needs to see. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
People would
no,
need to be
absolutely
like,
not.
"Yo, you good? You a legend? This, that, and the third." And that's why I could see the beauty in why people would see that, because people might not
Yeah,
understand our way of talking to each other and
no,
telling
people
people like
definitely
that.
don't understand.
Not at
You
all.
can see it in the people who come here and try to like live here, and right, whether they're gentrifiers or, I mean, they're all gentrifiers, right? But like, you know, a majority of them are gentrifiers. A majority of them, a lot of them do still move into their own like neighborhoods where they're the majority. But like,
Yeah,
you look at them, and when they try to like act like New Yorkers, they take, they don't do it right. You know, like they're being dicks, but not in the right way. You know, like it's just like, nah, you're just being a dick. That's not like, that's not our shit. That's not like there's
yeah,
it
like it's
like
it's a right way to be a dick and a wrong way. It's mad
yeah,
weird, yo. I can't explain
yeah,
that
yeah,
shit.
yeah. Yeah,
But
me
it's
either.
like
That's
it.
why I stopped right there.
Nah, but you know, like somebody be like, yo, you be fucking with some. But you know, the reason why we fuck with people out here, because we come up from a place where we want you to, we want everyone to be their best, and to be their best, you gotta build the best up by testing them and see where they stand. That's why a lot of people got bars out here. That's why you probably get the best folks out here, that because everyone's out, even though it has a crab in the barrel kind of situation. Let's be real, it does, but there's an evolutionary trait to that, because it builds the best. You know what I mean? But what we fail to realize, which the rest of the country has realized, is that the reason why humanity excels, human beings, Homo sapiens, is because of the way how we work well with each other. And that's what New York gets lost in and shit. That we human beings are fascinating creatures because they can communicate with each other and be like, yo, let's create this village, let's do this, let's do that, da da da. They can do things that even other human species were unable to do, and animals, they do it, but they can't do it to a point. Like ants, ants could have fucking a whole structure and this and that because it's inherent, it's inside of their genes, right? But they can't fucking build a strike or a union or a labor union or organize labor in that funds and get representation and things of that nature. That's a human trait. And humans make things like that happen because we work well together for the benefit of all and shit like that. That's the difference between us and other species. And sometimes as New Yorkers or people within that vein, we lose sight of that. We always trying to rough people up, which is part of our dazzle, and at the same time we always try to knock each other down and shit like that, you know what I mean? Because it's just like, that's why the South can win sometimes, because they be like, oh, we don't got those problems. Now they probably got those problems, but before they didn't, because it was more of a pleasant situation. That's why people could come from outside our city or outside our area and still take over, because they'll come here with their whole like G Wally G Wally talk, or it's a great time had by all type shit, folksy shit, and motherfuckers from outside be like, that's pleasant. And that's a little bit change from the whole
Great
everybody
time
being a
had
bunch
by
of
all.
dicks. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's whatever is. Sometimes people come in here with something different than that's outside of our norm, and it ends up becoming accepted. It could be the most ruthless, narcissistic motherfucker, but just the fact that they doing shit in a pleasant way in a world where everybody's just a bunch of honest assholes, well-meaning assholes, they'll win and shit like that. So we
Yeah,
got a lot of things to really look at in terms of how we interact with people, and you know how we could be who we are, but at the same time just not being disconnected from the rest of humanity and shit. Like, that's mad gangster. It's a balance that you have to have on the East Coast, right? Because you gotta be like, you a dick and you a lovable asshole, but at the same time you gotta know like, yo, I could connect with you and I could still keep my empathy, and that's a whole dynamic type of human being and shit. It's mad bug the fuck out, son. I gotta explore that on record. I'm gonna do that shit. I gotta do that shit. That's crazy. But yo, I'm glad that you had me on this interview, B. How long we could talk for? Like years? We gonna
yo,
be out here for
yo,
years.
for years. Yeah, nah. I mean,
I'm
there's
about to I'm
no.
about to go to 2-4 store. I want to get cookies, but I ain't trying to. Damn, I've been eating like a monster. I gotta chill, B. I
Nah,
chill like
that's
a
good.
motherfucker.
Sis said we wrapping
Yeah,
up. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
So I guess that,
Oh,
honestly, yeah. I feel like you should definitely come back though.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, yo, Dutch, my man. Like, that's the homie. So that's like light work. That ain't nothing. Light work means like, whatever. I could come. I could. I come back. That's not a problem and shit. We could definitely talk about this
Like
all
it's
day.
just
So.
like one of those ones where I'm gonna have to unpack it for the next week because there's a lot.
Yeah,
That
yo.
was a lot. That was
It
like
was a lot.
I was like
Yeah, nah, it's
a
great.
master class in a philosophical perception that I don't know if it has a name, but it's the CF one. That's that one.
It's a
It was
legend.
wild.
Yeah,
It's legend. It's
I like
legendary.
we
that
could
shit.
we could talk all the time. Be facts. I mean, yo, me and Dutch, you
Legend
already
talk.
know.
All legend talk.
Dutch, you already know when we out there working with people doing our stage and shit or our work shit. We work well together. But you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
because we got
absolutely.
a good friendship and shit like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I
which
would
is the
say
That's
that
type of
we
wild.
also
camaraderie.
both we have a eye to eye with a work ethic. We have we have
Yeah,
we have an appreciation for having a work ethic, which is something that I appreciate out of people. Like, and the older that I get, the more that like that trumps all to me. Is like people's work ethic
yo,
Right.
that's crazy.
because
That
it speaks volumes about their character.
everything you said is real. Cause you could have somebody and they might say some other shit that you see their work ethic and you be like, you see their integrity, you be like, yo, you know what, man, I appreciate you more for the human being that you are than whatever other shit that you are. Like it could be a rapper, like let's say it could be a Takashi 69 motherfucker. Let's say he's one day working stagehand and you see him actually busting his ass and doing shit and doing crazy shit and working and really being out there. And I'm saying like 5 months in doing still the same shit. No shiesty shit. You be like, you ain't the motherfucker that you are on this. That's not who you. But it is who you are. It's just different layers, and that's
Right.
humanity. That's the
Yeah,
beauty of humanity, is that human beings
yeah,
have all these different
Right.
layers to them, and you can appreciate them.
Yes.
Nas said it himself, like every artist is truly an artist because of their contradictions, and we all
Right.
know Nas got mad
Right.
contradictions and
yeah.
shit like that.
Yes.
But
That,
it's a lot of it's the
Yes.
as human beings we evolve and shit.
I appreciate
But
you a lot,
nah,
CF.
this is facts. This is facts. All right,
But, uh,
we're gonna wrap it up,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because sis gotta get to doing other things.
no, but
Danny, shout to Danny.
I
Shouts to
appreciate
EO
you.
Dub.
Yo, shout out everybody
Um,
watching
what up?
this. Make sure y'all follow End of the Week at /EOWTV and EODub.com. And you get to see CF tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, at FreeODub. I think that's how it works.
Rio
Yeah, we
Dub at
definitely.
9:30 p.m.
I'm rocking with the
Eastern.
God. I know Jay Hur was here. I know the God. Um, Zoo. Anybody who knows Zoo is an amazing off the top artist and just
Facts.
overall great human being. He's a fucking teacher, a principal, a deacon, all types of shit.
They
So
discuss
you know,
books.
So yeah,
They
make
yeah,
have
sure.
like
we
a
out
they
there.
have like a book club.
Yeah, that's
Check it
amazing.
out every
He's
week.
gonna, he's gonna be on the next record. We're gonna have a record called Book Review.
Yeah,
And
that's
he's gonna be
wild.
Oh,
on it.
that's dope.
So
Yeah.
me and Dontique and himself, we're gonna talk about a lot of our favorite books that we got, and it's just no one ever did that. No one ever did that on record. What the shit that we're gonna explore on this record is gonna be shit that nobody's really doing on record. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it's gonna be different.
You.
But yo, man,
These is
I'm
facts.
about to get up out of here.
I appreciate
Yo,
having you
CF,
here.
you're a legend, bro.
Big
Thank you so
legend.
much,
Yo,
This
yo.
is
you
one of
already
those.
know
This is
Dutch.
one
I'ma
of those
hit you.
big interviews.
Yo, he started the raid,
Yeah,
yo.
I mean
All
that's
right,
just it's got a
do
timer, so that way
your
we can
piece
do it
and
all proper.
oh, okay.
It's not like an immediate thing. Then there's like another timer that
Oh,
goes a
okay.
while. But yo, I was just to say I appreciate having you here, CF. Everybody, make sure you check it out. Links in description. Follow their stuff. Honestly, the albums is mad impressive. You just heard the details, but like they're really well done from somebody that's not
Now
him.
that was the best pitch if I've ever heard a pitch to like go hear somebody's project.
Yeah,
Like
I've
this
never
whole thing is like, yo, this guy is clearly very intelligent. I'm
facts.
gonna go check out this music just off that,
Yeah,
just based off that. You know what I'm saying?
and all of that'll be down
Yeah,
there.
man.
Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate you all coming through and learning more perspectives. Yo, live long and
Yeah.
prosper, everybody.
Yo, hit me up, CF201, BillionManRebellion.com, Billionman Rebellion 201, Dontique 3, all that, IG. We also have our album, Static Files and Ghost Lineage,
All
streaming
the-
on all
the
digital
links are down
platforms.
below, man. Links in
Correct, you
description.
already
We've
know.
been
Got that.
we be putting the links in the description. Son.
Yo, you
Know
the
what I mean?
best, son, doing your
Yo,
homework. So, yo,
it's
man.
nah, it's Holden, yo. Holden makes me. I was just smart.
Great
know what
looks,
I
Holden. Great looks.
mean?
Yo, peace to Canada, man. Like I didn't. There's so
Peace
much
to
love
Canada.
coming from Toronto, from Montreal, from Quebec. I hope I got all the regions right, but I know that in like Canada seems to be like really, really rocking. I went to Toronto once.
Vancouver.
I never went to
US
like
Vancouver.
upper northern Canada, but there's an
Oh,
amazing
that's the
group of
fucking.
people up there. So
You
peace to
talking
everybody
about
in North
either?
America.
Yo,
Appreciate you a lot.
shit.
CF.
What's the motherfucker's
What up,
name?
legend?
Word. Yo, peace to everybody. Peace, God. Peace, legend.
What
Thank
up?
you so much
Hit me,
for
yo.
the
You
for the
already
blessing
know,
of your
killer.
presence.
All right,
You
take
already
care.
know.
Got
I'll be
you.
seeing you.
You
I'll be
already,
seeing you in the
legend.
field.
Peace.
You already